Chapter 1, See-Through, Let Go. I'm really impressed. Is your waist like a male dog's? The woman in the living room walked past the TV and looked at Su Yang, who was sitting on the sofa, with a smile. I just said no in the bedroom. Now again? Su Yang surveyed the woman in front of the TV. The woman was good-looking, her eyes full of moisture, her thick black hair draped like waves over her fair back, making her skin look as smooth as butter. Her figure was superb, and when she walked past the TV just now, the TV commercial was missing for several seconds. Su Yang waved at the woman. I meant don't do it in the bedroom, I didn't say don't do it in the living room. Damn it! The woman gave Su Yang a flirtatious glare. Then she walked over, leaned on Su Yang's chest, and said in a soft and pleasant voice. Let's play a game of king first. You choose Daji, I'll choose Meng Tian. Okay. You choose Meng Tian and I'll choose Daji. Su Yang skillfully took out his phone. Defeat. In less than 10 minutes, a prompt appeared on both screens. The woman put the phone aside and smiled, touching Su Yang's abs. Am I really that attractive? Do you like teasing me so much? I saw how busy you were when we were playing games just now. Su Yang said. While I'm still free, let's do it a few more times. My girlfriend is going to be back in China soon, so it might not be so convenient to hang out together in the future. The woman's body trembled violently, and she stood up abruptly. Staring into Su Yang's eyes, she obviously restrained her anger. Su Yang, what did you say? Where did you get a girlfriend? Su Yang looked at the woman indifferently, lit a cigarette, and exhaled a few smoke rings before saying indifferently. Why are you asking so many questions? Didn't we agree at the beginning that it was just a relationship of financial support, and that we could break up whenever we wanted? I'm a man, after all, so why would I hang myself on just one tree? It was just for fun, so why take it so seriously? Even if it wasn't because of my girlfriend, after 2 years, I feel that the relationship between the two of us is almost over. Su Yang's words completely pierced the woman's heart, and her face instantly turned cold. Su Yang, what do you mean? Are you dumping me? I won't agree to that. Su Yang got up and kissed the woman on the cheek. Baby, don't pretend to be so miserable. It's been more than 2 years, you haven't had to pay rent and you've had a good time. Isn't that great? Now that you're going to college, it's not convenient to live in this house, so you should move out. In the future, I'll buy you another house as compensation for the past 2 years. The woman's face turned completely cold. Dream on. You think you can just dump me? You think I'll just move out of the university dorms? I'm staying right here in this house, I'm not going anywhere. Su Yang got dressed and patted the woman on the shoulder. Honey, come on, don't be like this, it's not worth it. After saying that, Su Yang just grabbed the car keys and was about to leave. From the living room behind him, the sound of a glass being smashed came. Su Yang turned his head and glanced at the woman. He shook his head helplessly, turned around and left. This woman, Su Yang had kept for 2 years, had a thin waist, big breasts, long legs and fair skin. In terms of both appearance and figure, this woman was definitely one of the best. If he really wanted to end the relationship, Su Yang was a little reluctant. However, he had been with this woman for more than 2 years, and there was some truth in their relationship. Su Yang was a little worried that if he let this relationship continue, he might fall into a big emotional pit again. He had already fallen into a relationship with his girlfriend before, and it had cost him half his life. He couldn't afford to fall into the same trap again. Su Yang had long since come to terms with it. In this day and age, love is all bullshit. It's for kids to talk about love. Women are just a novelty. So, while the infatuation is still fresh, he should get out while he can. Take a break, and find the next one. Just use your loins, not your heart. Harmless as a human and animal, the years are quiet and beautiful. No woman in my heart, I'm a god with a sword drawn. Su Yang got into the car, lit a cigarette silently, glanced at the old house of the Shengsheng mansion upstairs, started the car and drove towards another house in Donghu Garden. Half an hour later, Su Yang arrived outside the 200-square-meter flat in Donghu Garden. This house was originally the Jiang family's wedding house for Jiang Siyin and Su Yang. After Jiang Siyin left for abroad, Su Yang mostly lived in this large flat, going to the brothel twice a week to find a woman to keep him company. As soon as Su Yang opened the door to the large flat in Donghu Garden, he saw a familiar woman packing her bags in the house. Jiang Siyin was wearing a cheongsam, her figure was graceful, her temperament gentle, and every movement exuded the elegance of a rich girl. Su Yang and Jiang Siyin had grown up together since childhood. After graduating from university and getting engaged, Jiang Siyin studied abroad for 3 years. At that time, Su Yang's senior, Centurion, was also abroad. Su Yang and Centurion were best friends who played on the school football team together. So Su Yang asked Centurion to take care of Jiang Siyin, who had just left for abroad, while he was abroad. Unexpectedly, as they took care of Jiang Siyin, they both fell in love. This incident had a great impact on Su Yang and almost cost him half of his life. For those 6 months, Su Yang was heartbroken. Countless days and nights, Su Yang spent sleepless nights. It felt as if his heart had been stabbed by soft needles, leaving countless bloody holes. It was also as if he had been thrown into a blender, smashed to pieces, torn apart, and the sight was too tragic to bear. Su Yang had imagined countless times in his head the scene of Jiang Siyin being confronted after returning to China and being asked why she had betrayed the two of them. But now that Jiang Siyin was really in front of him, there was no emotion in Su Yang's heart. He has seen through it and let it go. The wounds on his once tender heart have long since scabbed over and turned into a thick layer of armor. Time is the best medicine for all pain. The anger and pain of the past have long since faded away, blown away by the wind. Su Yang's heart has long since changed. Oh, my little wife is finally back? Wasn't your flight tomorrow? Why didn't you tell me in advance? I'll come and pick you up. Su Yang stretched out his arms and welcomed her with a smile. Don't shout. I'm not your wife. Jiang Siyin's voice was cold, and she subconsciously took a few steps back. She was afraid that Su Yang would come over and hug her and spin her around like he used to do when they were at university. At that moment, Centurion came out of the bathroom. He looked a little fat, wearing a simple white short-sleeved shirt and casual pants. His hair was wet, obviously from a shower. Su Yang. You're here. Sorry. We changed our flight at the last minute, so we didn't have time to tell you. We brought too much luggage back this time, and it's not convenient to go to a hotel, so we had to come back here first. Su Chong stood there with a bath towel, his tone tinged with unease. Chapter 2, You're welcome, feel free to use the birth control. Su Yang's expression didn't change much, but instead he looked at Su Chong and Jiang Siyin with a faint smile. Congratulations! You two are finally together. Get it done soon, and I'll come to your wedding. And when you have the baby, you can let me be the godfather. If someone else had heard the conversation in this large flat, they would have thought it was a sincere congratulation between good friends on their reunion. Only Centurion and Jiang Siyin could hear the sarcasm in Su Yang's words. Jiang Siyin couldn't hold back her anger, her face full of anger. Su Yang, what are you saying in such a strange way? Do you know how hard it was for us to get by during the 3 years you were studying abroad? You were free and easy back home, and you did all those things. How can you live with yourself? After she finished speaking, Jiang Siyin gave Su Yang a fierce glare. Su Yang was speechless. It was clear that Jiang Siyin had proposed to break up, but instead, Su Yang was being treated as if he had done something wrong. Ha! He had just said a congratulatory sentence to the two of them getting together. However, Su Yang didn't think it was strange when he thought about it. From elementary school to university, Su Yang had always unconditionally spoiled Jiang Siyin and let her have her way in everything. No matter what outrageous thing Jiang Siyin did, as long as Jiang Siyin was unhappy, it was Su Yang who would bow his head and admit his fault. It was good that they had separated now, saving him from having to grovel after her. Thinking about this, a smile appeared on Su Yang's face. Oops, I was just joking. Why be so serious? Oh, right. The delivery box in the living room is full of birth control products I bought, all kinds and all sorts, so if you need them, go ahead and use them. We're all family here, don't be shy. When Su Yang was supporting the woman at the university, the birth control products ran out quickly, so Su Yang simply bought a whole box at once. He just didn't pay attention to the wrong address and it was delivered to Donghu Garden. Jiang Siyin frowned and remained silent for a few seconds, looking at Su Yang with more disgust in her eyes. Su Yang, what do you mean? Are you deliberately trying to upset me? Seeing Jiang Siyin and Sita Chang's embarrassed expressions, Su Yang laughed even more happily, and the smile at the corner of her mouth was even harder to suppress than an AK with an 8x scope. Su Yang walked into the living room, took out a delivery box, and waved it in front of Jiang Siyin's face. Oh dear, look at this. I'm being kind to you by sharing supplies with you, and you say this. Since you don't need it, I'll take it and use it myself. It'll save me buying it again later. I'm leaving. You two get busy. I'll come back some other day to pack up my things and make room for you. Jiang Siyin was stunned as she watched Su Yang turn around and leave. She had expected Su Yang to be furious when they met today and to angrily question her why she was with Situ Chong. She had even worried that Su Yang would hit Situ Chong. Unexpectedly, after meeting today, Su Yang was smiling the whole time, not angry at all. The smile on his face never stopped. He even wanted to take out the birth control supplies and share them. Is he crazy? After a short period of pondering, Jiang Siyin saw through everything. Jiang Siyin and Su Yang grew up together, and Jiang Siyin felt that no one understood Su Yang better than she did. I'm sure Su Yang was hoping I would come back today, and prepared the birth control tools in advance, wanting to make love to me. But Su Yang saw me appear in the bridal room with Situ Chong, and he must be extremely angry and furious. That's why he's acting so strange and indifferent. Does he think that by talking in such a strange way and deliberately provoking me, he can get back together with me? He's really as childish as a child. Su Yang sighed. He took the delivery box and returned to Shang Shengfu. As soon as he entered the house, the woman in the house was coming out of the bathroom after a shower. From a distance, Su Yang could smell the refreshing fragrance exuding from the woman. The woman was wearing a thin nightgown, her figure was graceful. Her long hair was casually draped over her shoulders, the hair was damp. Su Yang couldn't help but feel his heart flutter. When she saw Su Yang enter the room, the woman gave him a glare while blowing her hair. I thought you were leaving, what are you doing back here? Su Yang walked over and gave her a smile. This is my house, I can come back whenever I want. The woman didn't want to deal with Su Yang, finished blowing her hair, gave him a cold stare, and went into the bedroom. Su Yang took a box of 001 out of the delivery box and followed into the bedroom, where he embraced the woman from behind. We're going to be apart soon. Can't we have more? I just bought some 001, 30 yuan a piece, so expensive. Perfect for testing. In the past, whenever Su Yang hugged a woman from behind, her body would always be soft and pliable like water. Today, after the woman was hugged by Su Yang, she felt stiff and full of resistance. The woman angrily said, Su Yang, get out of my way, go find your green plum girlfriend. Su Yang could no longer hold back as he smelled the familiar fragrance on the woman's body. He threw the woman on the bed and kissed her passionately. The woman's body gradually began to soften, and her eyes became a little hazy. A blush spread to her face. Su Yang had to admit that he was satisfied with the woman's bed skills. Appreciating a woman is like appreciating a book. Each woman's book is read with a different feeling. Su Yang had been reading the book of the woman in front of him for 2 years, but felt that he had only reached the beginning. Unfortunately, such a good book will no longer be available for reading in the future. Ah! As Su Yang was getting up to tear off the plastic film on the 001 package, a sharp pain shot up his arm. Su Yang let out a scream. Looking back, he saw a neat row of small teeth marks on his shoulder. The woman had bitten him without mercy. The skin on Su Yang's shoulder had been bitten through, and a little blood was oozing out. Su Yang rubbed his shoulder in pain, looking at the woman in disbelief. Holy shit! You actually bit me! Are you a dog? The woman took the opportunity to get up. She kicked Su Yang with her oily, smooth, big legs. If you dare to be tough again, next time I won't just bite your shoulder. Chapter 3, Locked Out by the Female Tenant. Su Yang looked down and felt a chill. In the past, whenever they made out, the woman was coquettish and slutty, and the two of them enjoyed themselves. But today she was standing her ground. Su Yang could do nothing but shrug. If you don't want to do it, then don't. Bitch, why did you bite me? In that case, you can pack up your things and move out. The woman retorted, in your dreams. If anyone's moving, it's you. Su Yang couldn't understand it. No, why do you have to insist on staying here? I already told you, go look at the houses in the neighborhood. If there's a suitable one, I'll buy you one. This house is just an old, small one, worthless, I'll buy you a bigger one. The woman snorted, this neighborhood is inside Hanzhou University, and I just want to live in this house. Can't I just like living in a house on campus? College life is so great. Su Yang burst out laughing, indeed. College life, so great. The woman became even more angry. She gave Su Yang a cold stare, pushed him out of the bedroom, and slammed the door behind him. I'm telling you, I'm not moving. I'm staying in this apartment. Su Yang was helpless. He took a shower and watched some TV in the living room. When it was 12 o'clock, he went back into the woman's bedroom. The woman was already fast asleep, wrapped up in the quilt. The dim yellow light from the table lamp hit the woman, revealing the quilted arms, which looked like lotus roots under the light. Her calves were smooth and slender, her skin firm and elastic, and her length was just right, showing off an elegant curve. The delicate face and well-shaped lips made Su Yang feel a burst of jealousy. After quietly admiring her for a while, Su Yang pulled back the quilt and climbed into the woman's bed. The woman was awakened. Seeing Su Yang, she suddenly felt another burst of anger. Without mercy, the woman lifted her foot and kicked Su Yang. "Su Yang, why are you here again?" This time, Su Yang was prepared. He grabbed the woman's kicking foot with one hand. Taking advantage of the situation, he placed the woman's smooth and tender little foot in the palm of his hand and rubbed it a few times. The woman was angry, but now she was tickled by Su Yang and wanted to laugh. This feeling made the woman feel very uncomfortable. So she opened her mouth, revealing a row of white teeth, and reached towards Su Yang's shoulder. Su Yang had just experienced the power of a woman's teeth. His heart tightened, and he quickly let go of the woman's foot, wrapping himself in the quilt and taking up a defensive stance. The woman frowned and rolled her eyes. "Su Yang, it's the middle of the night, do you want to sleep or not?" Su Yang snorted and said, "There's only one hardboard in the second bedroom, the bed isn't even made, and it's full of all kinds of clutter, how am I supposed to sleep?" "I don't care how you sleep. This is my bed, you can either go out and sleep on the sofa, or go out and get a hotel room. Don't disturb my sleep. If you don't let me sleep, I'll sleep here anyway. This is obviously my house, my bed. If you're so capable, you get me off it." Su Yang lay down, covered himself with the quilt, and found the most comfortable position to lie down. "You!" The woman was furious when she saw the man take up most of the bed. But there was nothing she could do about Su Yang. After a while, the other side of the bed caved in. The woman looked for another quilt in her bedroom, wrapped it around her, and angrily slept on the other side of the bed. A smug smile crossed Su Yang's lips. He rolled over comfortably, covered himself with the quilt that still smelled faintly of the woman's fragrance, and leisurely lay in bed. Su Yang had trouble sleeping and often suffered from insomnia. In the past, he could only sleep for a few hours after being exhausted from intimate lovemaking with a woman. The woman, on the other hand, probably fell asleep soon after because she was angry. Listening to the even, light breathing from the woman's side, Su Yang's thoughts flew. 2 years ago, Su Yang experienced the darkest moment of his life. Xing made Jiang Siyin propose to break up, and Su Yang's relationship with his biological parents also came to a stalemate. Love and family, the two things Su Yang valued, seemed to be drifting away from Su Yang. Su Yang often went to bars to drink and get drunk. Only in this way could he alleviate the unbearable pain in his heart at that time. That time, Su Yang went home after drinking, and saw this woman drunk in front of the bar. A few young thugs were about to pick her up. The young thugs specialized in picking up beautiful women who were drunk alone in front of bars, taking them to hotels to wash and brew them, and then selling the drunk women to wealthy and powerful bosses with connections. Su Yang stopped the young thugs and had a fight with them. At that time, Su Yang was suffering from a double blow and was in a bad mood. Coupled with the fact that he had been drinking, the fight revealed a ruthless streak. A fight is either a standoff or a fight to the death. The little yellow hairs fled in all directions as soon as they saw the situation was not going well. Su Yang didn't bring his ID that day, and he couldn't go to a hotel to get a room, so he took the drunk woman to this house in Xingshui Mansion. When the woman sobered up, she found that there was a man next to her, and the clothes of the two people in the house were everywhere. It seemed to be telling the story of the fierce battle that had just taken place. The woman frowned, got dressed, and was about to leave, but then she noticed that the house was inside Hanzhou University and had a very stylish decoration. So she asked Su Yang if she could rent the house. Su Yang joked that the house was not for rent. However, he could support her in this house, so that the woman not only did not have to pay rent, but also received a monthly sum of money. The woman hesitated for a moment, but then she actually agreed. So the woman became Su Yang's tenant. Except that Su Yang didn't charge rent. He gave the woman 30,000 yuan every month. Thinking back on his experiences with the woman, Su Yang laughed silently. For more than 2 years, the contact list in the woman's phone had always been addressed to the female tenant, and he had always called her little woman or baby when they met. Now that they were about to part ways, he didn't even know the woman's name. In a daze, Su Yang finally felt sleepy. After sleeping for a while, it was already 10 o'clock in the morning. The bed was empty, and there was no trace of the woman in the house. Thinking about how he had prevailed over the woman in the struggle for the house yesterday, Su Yang's mouth curled up into a smile of victory. A feeling of hunger came over him, and Su Yang realized that he was hungry. He opened the refrigerator, which was empty except for a handful of dried noodles. Su Yang opened the door and went out to find food. As soon as he opened the door, Su Yang noticed something was wrong. After unlocking the door, the security door of the house did not budge. After a moment of confusion, Su Yang understood. Su Yang laughed angrily. Was this woman locked out of the house by the female tenant? Chapter 4, Throwing Away the Female Tenant's Jacket. Su Yang picked up her phone and called the female tenant. You little bitch, you locked the security door? As soon as the call connected, Su Yang questioned her over the phone. Laughter from the female tenant could be heard on the other end of the line. Oops, I'm sorry. You were sleeping like a dead pig, and when I went out, I forgot you were still at home. You like sleeping in my bed so much, go ahead and keep sleeping. I don't mind if you sleep all day long. Over the phone, Su Yang could almost see the female tenant's smug face. Get your ass back here and open the door for me. Su Yang snapped over the phone. But before Su Yang could finish, the female tenant hung up. Su Yang angrily dialed the number several times. Again, it hung up. If the door never opens, won't I be trapped in this house forever? Su Yang felt his stomach growl even louder. Just as Su Yang was trying to think of a solution, a phone call came in. Su Yang answered the phone, but on the other end was Jiang Siyin's voice. Su Yang, when are you coming home with me? Grandpa, Mom, and Dad are asking why we haven't gone back yet. We? Su Yang said impatiently, didn't you bring Centurion back? Just take him home. I'll visit them often from now on. Su Yang, stop messing around. Jiang Siyin's tone was serious. You hurry up and go back with me. The old man's health has been bad lately. The old man told us to go back together, so don't make him angry. Su Yang had no choice. The Su and Jiang families had been close friends for 3 generations, and their relationship had always been very good. From the age of 12 until he went to university, Su Yang had been brought back to live with the Jiang family by Jiang Mingyi, the patriarch of the Jiang family. Although he had now broken up with Jiang Siyin, the old man and Jiang Siyin's parents had always been very kind to Su Yang. Now that Jiang Siyin has asked Su Yang to go back to the Jiang family together, he can't refuse. Su Yang, okay. I'll go back with you. But it'll have to wait, I'm locked out of my house right now and can't get out. Jiang Siyin is very surprised. Locked out of your house? By whom? Su Yang tells the truth, a woman I'm supporting. I had a fight with her. Jiang Siyin can't help but jump up at the other end of the phone. Su Yang, are you crazy? You're supporting another woman? Su Yang smiled, why? You're allowed to do whatever you want, but I'm not. You hang out with your senior colleagues, so what if I find a college girl? Jiang Siyin thought about it for a moment, and suddenly came back to her senses. She thought that Su Yang must have seen her with Centurion yesterday, and he was feeling unbalanced. So he deliberately made up the lie about supporting a woman to anger her. Jiang Siyin said angrily. Su Yang, can you stop being so childish? Yesterday, you said those weird things to upset me, and you even wanted to share birth control products with me. And today, you said you're supporting a female college student? You're really busy. We'll meet at Grandpa's house at 3 p.m. After she finished speaking, Jiang Siyin hung up the phone. Su Yang looked at the tightly locked door in front of him and was at a loss. He was getting hungry. With no choice, Su Yang had to boil some dried noodles and eat a bowl of plain boiled noodles to fill his stomach. Just as Su Yang was eating the noodles, there was a noise at the front door. The female tenant took the key and opened the door. As soon as she entered, she saw Su Yang sitting at the dining table. In front of him was a bowl of plain noodles. The woman couldn't help but laugh. Hey, Su Yang. Your food looks good? Su Yang glanced up at her, glowering. It's not because you locked me in the house that I didn't even have breakfast or lunch. How can you gloat now? The female tenant walked up to Su Yang and patted him on the shoulder. Don't be angry, I'm back to open the door for you, aren't I? Besides, didn't you say you like sleeping in my bed? Today you can sleep as much as you like. Su Yang frowned and stood up. Stop it, you hurry up and pack your things and move out of this house. The female tenant's smile instantly disappeared from her face, and she said coldly, I said, I'm not moving. If anyone is moving, it's you. Su Yang suddenly became a little angry. Why can't you understand? This is my house. Why do you have to live in this house like a dead skin? The female tenant was not willing to give in. I also said it. I want to live in this house. No one can get rid of me. Su Yang was completely annoyed. Seeing the woman's jacket that she had just taken off and placed on the sofa, he threw the jacket off the balcony. Are you moving or not? The female tenant's face instantly turned pale, and she looked at Su Yang in disbelief. Su Yang, you bastard. How dare you throw my clothes? Su Yang looked at the woman. If you're not going to move out, don't even think about living comfortably here. You have to move out this week. The female tenant was silent. She turned around and wiped her eyes with her hand. Su Yang had been supporting this female tenant for more than 2 years, and the two of them had always been happy. They were always happy together. This was the first time Su Yang had seen a woman cry. Su Yang felt a vague sense of guilt. It was a bit much to have just thrown her clothes away. Thinking about this, Su Yang turned around and went downstairs to pick up the jacket he had just thrown off the balcony. After handing the jacket to the female tenant, Su Yang's voice softened a bit. Here's your jacket. When you look around the house later, if you like any of the pictures, I'll buy you a set. The woman gave Su Yang a fierce glare. There was a hint of stubbornness in her eyes. Are you trying to compensate me? You seem to be very rich? Su Yang sighed, his tone tinged with a hint of helplessness. It's not compensation, I just want to put an end to things. You and I were always a transaction, and now it's time to end it. I'll buy you a house as a token of my gratitude for the past 2 years. The female tenant was silent for a moment, then slowly spoke. Su Yang, are you really so heartless? Has there never been a trace of affection between us? Su Yang was momentarily taken aback, then smiled and said, feelings? Forget it. That stuff doesn't put food on the table. No feelings, no love, carefree and happy. The woman's mouth twitched, as if she wanted to say something else, but in the end she just glanced at Su Yang, turned around, and silently went back to the bedroom. Su Yang stood where he was, watching the woman's departing figure, a complex emotion welling up in his heart. He had thought he could easily end the relationship, but the female tenant's reaction caught Su Yang off guard. In an instant, Su Yang was shocked when he realized that this thought had flashed through his mind. What was wrong with him? He had said that he would not get emotionally involved. Why did he have such thoughts? Su Yang shook his head hastily, as if he had touched a taboo, to get rid of those messy thoughts. Chapter 5 Jiang Siyin gets a beating. Just then, the phone rang again. He answered it, and it was Jiang Siyin's voice. Su Yang, what the hell are you doing? Why aren't you here yet? I'm coming. Don't rush me. Su Yang hung up the phone. Half an hour later, he drove to the Jiang family's villa community in Building 1000. Jiang Siyin was waiting alone on a long bench in front of the villa community. When she saw Su Yang's car approaching, Jiang Siyin waved. Su Yang rolled down the window and asked with a smile, Jiang Siyin, you're at your own front door, why aren't you going in? Jiang Siyin was taken aback when Su Yang called her by her full name. In the past, when they were together, Su Yang always affectionately called her In or little wife. Now he was addressing her so formally, which made her feel a little strange and lost. Su Yang, why are you calling me by my name? Why do I feel that you are acting strange today? Jiang Siyin frowned. Su Yang shrugged, I feel that you have been abroad for a few years, and you are the one who has changed. Yesterday, when I called you my little wife, you said I was calling you randomly, and today, when I call you by your name, you don't like it. So, shall I call you Ms. Jiang from now on? Jiang Siyin glared at Su Yang, opened the car door, got in, and sat in the passenger seat. Su Yang, stop being smart-mouthed. Have you thought about what we'll say when we see Grandpa and the family? Su Yang smiled, what else can we say? Just tell the family that we're breaking up. We're not even officially married, so it'll be easy to separate. Jiang Siyin's face suddenly turned pale. At first, when Jiang Siyin had proposed breaking up while they were abroad, Su Yang had been on the phone and sending emails, pleading and begging to stay together. At that time, Jiang Siyin even felt a little annoyed. Unexpectedly, now that he has returned to China, Su Yang has simply and decisively taken the initiative to say that they are breaking up. Jiang Siyin thought about it and thought that it must be the shock of bringing Sidu Chong to the wedding room in Donghu Garden yesterday that was too much for Su Yang. Su Yang's current attitude may just be a kind of instinctive stress protection. Jiang Siyin frowned. Su Yang, what do you mean? Are you deliberately trying to upset me again? Can you be serious and stop pretending to be a carefree punk on purpose? Su Yang gave Jiang Siyin a look and said indifferently. I don't mean anything. I didn't mean to upset you on purpose either. At first I really couldn't understand why, after being childhood sweethearts for more than 10 years, you would leave me for Situchong. But then I figured it out. A forced relationship is not a happy one. Since you are so determined to be with him, I will let you be. Now I feel that it's meaningless. You have returned to China with Situchong and moved into the marital home. I will not get in the way of your happy life in the marital home. Su Yang was speaking from the heart. Before, Jiang Siyin had been abandoned by her biological parents after breaking up with her boyfriend, and she had suffered a double blow. During that period, Su Yang even considered suicide. Now he has long since completely let go of his obsession with relationships and family ties. Free of attachments and worries, he is instead carefree and nourished. Besides, Su Yang hasn't been idle for the past 2 years. He has been maintaining a mistress, and goes to her whenever he needs to. He gets physical pleasure without having to give his emotions, and his life is actually quite comfortable. Jiang Siyin was inexplicably angry when Su Yang took the initiative to break up with her. Su Yang, why are you so petty? Didn't I say yesterday that I had too much luggage to bring back to China, and it would be inconvenient to stay in a hotel? Nothing happened between Situchong and me. Besides, Situchong is at least a good friend of your football team and also my senior, and he took care of me quite a bit while we were abroad. I need someone to help me with all the dirty work, right? Now that we're back in China, I'm considering whether to choose you or Situchong. Su Yang nearly sputtered the mouthful of mineral water he was drinking. You mean, I still have a chance? Jiang Siyin brushed her hair against the car's vanity mirror. After all, we have been together for more than 10 years, and we can't just split up like that. After all, we were once engaged. How about this, you and Situchong compete fairly. But you need to change your petty attitude quickly, or don't blame me for not giving you a chance. Su Yang was so angry that she laughed, and an inexplicable disgust welled up in her heart. It really is an overestimation of Jiang Siyin and Situchong. I thought they were so deeply in love that they would never change. Competition? What do you think this is, a game? Su Yang said coldly, I have no interest in playing this kind of boring game with you. I thank you. Don't ever give me a chance. Jiang Siyin's eyebrows were knitted together, and a flash of disappointment appeared in her eyes. She was obviously surprised by Su Yang's reaction. In the end, Jiang Siyin attributed it all to Su Yang's stress response. How could Su Yang say break up so easily? This guy Su Yang's reaction was so cold on the surface, but I guess he's secretly happy to hear that I'm giving him another chance. We've been together for more than 10 years, don't I know him? After humming to herself, Jiang Siyin didn't say anything more, and instead resumed her lazy expression. Su Yang quickly drove to the front door of the Jiang family villa. He just got off the car and entered the courtyard of the villa. He saw Jiang's father, Jiang Boyan, and Jiang's mother, Jiang Lan, standing at the entrance of the villa with serious expressions on their faces. Seeing his daughter Jiang Siyin, whom he had not seen for a long time, Jiang Boyan's face did not show much joy, but rather a serious expression. Jiang Siyin originally wanted to go up to Jiang Boyan and give him a hug, but when she saw that Jiang Boyan's face was serious, she could only stick out her tongue and backed off. Jiang Boyan angrily rebuked her, "Yin. What's wrong with you? I heard that you returned this time with that little white face, Situchong? Didn't I tell you not to return at the same time as him? Do you take my words as nothing?" Jiang Siyin looked at Jiang Boyan with a guilty heart. She went over to her mother Jiang Lan and shook her arm, acting spoiled. Mom, look at my dad. I haven't even entered the house yet after returning to the country, and my dad is already scolding me like this. You should control my dad. Jiang Lan looked at her daughter and a flash of helplessness crossed her eyes. Inin, your father is only looking out for your best interests. You came back with him, what will Su Yang think? Jiang Siyin pouted and retorted discontentedly, Mom, what's wrong with me coming back with Situchong? He's always taken care of me abroad. At this moment, Jiang Mingyi, the patriarch of the Jiang family, heard the voices outside and rushed over with his walking stick. The old man walked straight up to Jiang Siyin, picked up his cane and hit her on the butt. While hitting her, he cursed her fiercely. Yin, you are such an inconsiderate girl. How is Su Yang inferior to that young good-looking guy you later found? You have to be with that young good-looking guy? You don't know that you and Su Yang are both engaged, and you still provoke that wild man outside. Su Yang grew up with you and has been so good to you. Where will you find someone who treats you as well as Su Yang? If you dare to go with that little white face, I'll break your legs. Chapter 6 Jiang Siyin, you have no class. The old man's cane did not actually hit her hard. But the gesture still startled Jiang Siyin greatly. Seeing that the situation was not good, Jiang Siyin quickly jumped out of the way and hid behind Zhonglun. Jiang Siyin could not understand at all. Usually, her grandfather doted on her, afraid to drop her if he held her in his hands, afraid to melt her if he held her in his mouth. Why did he want to hit her with his cane as soon as he saw her today? Zhonglun did not protect Jiang Siyin. Instead, she pushed Jiang Siyin in front of the old man and said with a dark face, "You deserve to be beaten by your grandfather." Jiang Siyin felt aggrieved when the old man hit her but twice with his cane. Mom, Dad, and Grandpa. Why are you all so against Situ Chong? People Sito Chong is my college senior, and took care of me abroad. And people are also studying abroad from a prestigious university, and this time back just with me to take over the family planning company's business, is not that great. And I did not say and Su Yang completely break up off. Let them two compete fairly, I'm not give Su Yang a chance. The old man's face was even more livid, pointing at Jiang Siyin scolded. At this time you still protect that pretty boy? I think you really lost your head. You want Su Yang to compete fairly with that pretty boy? Have you forgotten that you and Su Yang are already engaged? After saying this, the old man coughed with anger. Su Yang was moved to see the old man, Zhang Boyun and Zhang Lan defending him so strongly. When he was 3 years old, Su Yang got lost and was taken in by a remote rural family. The Su family searched for 2 years but to no avail. They had already given up on having another child and later adopted a son from a welfare institute. By chance, when Su Yang was 10 years old, the Su family managed to find their relatives and took Su Yang back from the adopted rural family. They had thought they could regain their family bond, but when they returned to the Su family, Su Yang was unable to integrate into the Su family life for various reasons. Just as Su Yang had a big fight with his family and was preparing to return to the rural adopted life. The Jiang family could not bear to see Su Yang suffer again in the countryside and took Su Yang in. The Su and Jiang families had been friends for 3 generations. After Su Yang was taken back in, the patriarch of the Jiang family, Jiang Boyun, and Zhang Lan treated Su Yang as if he were their own son. After graduating from university, Jiang Siyin went abroad to further her studies, and Su Yang and Zhang Boyun worked together to manage the Hangzhou Sifang planning company. The relationship between the few was usually very good, and Su Yang had a deep affection for the Jiang family. Seeing this, Su Yang quickly went over to support the old man and patted his back. Grandpa, don't be angry. Your health is important. Don't worry, I and Jiang Siyin's matter will definitely be resolved in the end. Let's go inside first, I'll accompany you for tea. Su Yang supported the old man into the living room. Zhang Lan looked at Su Yang's back and felt a pang of pain in her heart. Sighing, Zhang Lan turned to Jiang Siyin. Yin, you really don't understand anything. In the beginning, Su Yang was so desperate because you wanted to break up that he shaved his head. Now that you're back in China, you're still so indecisive? Jiang Siyin was taken aback. Su Yang, when did he shave his head because of me? Zhang Lan glared at Jiang Siyin. In the beginning, when you wanted him to break up, he couldn't sleep at night and his hair fell out in clumps. Later, he simply shaved his head completely. The hair you see on him now is all that grew back later. Jiang Siyin suddenly understood, and she snorted inwardly. Su Yang really hadn't let go of himself. No wonder yesterday Su Yang spoke in a strange way, and then said he had supported a female college student. It really was an act. This Su Yang is really very childish. Jiang Siyin pouted her lips and took Zhang Boyun and Zhang Lan's arms, saying, Okay, Mom and Dad, I know, don't keep telling me about me, okay? I haven't been back for so long, and look at you all being so mean to me. Do you still consider me your little cotton padded jacket? After all, Jiang Siyin is the apple of the Jiang family's eye, and Zhang Boyun and Zhang Lan also miss Jiang Siyin. After Jiang Siyin's reassurances, Zhang Boyun and Zhang Lan's expressions finally eased up. After entering the villa, Jiang Siyin cooed and flirted in front of the old man, and finally calmed him down. In a short while, Jiang Siyin called Su Yang alone to the courtyard outside the villa. As soon as they arrived outside the villa, Jiang Siyin began to scold Su Yang. Su Yang, you told on me and Situ Chong in front of Grandpa and my parents, didn't you? Just look at the lecture I got when I got home. Can't you be magnanimous and above board? If you want to be with me, just compete fairly with Situ Chong, okay? What kind of person tells on someone behind their family's back? You're a grown man, and you're acting like you're in a palace intrigue. Su Yan laughed in exasperation. His face showed contempt, and he said rudely, Jiang Siyin, you have no class. You got yelled at by your family, and now you're here to badmouth me? First, I said I'm not going to compete with that Sito Chung, and if you want to be with him, I won't stop you. Second, I didn't tell on you. Don't just make things up. It was late at night when I got to Donghu Garden yesterday, and the old man and the others were asleep. Where would I go to tell them off? Besides, it seems that the old man and the others don't know that you took Sito Chung back to the wedding room in Donghu Garden last night and stayed together. Guess what would happen if they found out? Jiang Siyin's face changed. What Su Yang said was really the case. Just knowing that he returned to China with Sito Chung, the old man and his family were furious. If the old man and his family knew that I had moved into the wedding room that Su Yang had originally prepared with Sito Chung, I guess the old man would not just lightly hit his but with his cane. Jiang Siyin's face turned red and white. She looked at Su Yang in front of her, as if he had become a different person. In the past, Su Yang always spoke to her carefully and very politely, and she had never seen Su Yang look at her like this before. It was enough that Su Yang was arguing with her, but when he spoke to her, there was even a look of contempt in his eyes. After she came back to her senses, Jiang Siyin snorted in dissatisfaction and said, Su Yang, don't think that just because you've made the boss happy, I'll stand on your side. I'm telling you, your tricks won't work on me. You'd better behave yourself and compete with Sito Chung properly, maybe you still have some chance. Su Yang was at a loss for words, he had no idea about Jiang Siyin's recent psychological activities. Just as Su Yang was about to ask Jiang Siyin what those tricks were, Zhang Lan arrived outside the villa courtyard and found the two of them, saying, Yinin, Su Yang, come in for a moment. Your father has something to tell you about work. Su Yang and Jiang Siyin entered the villa together. Zhang Buyan said in a serious tone after a moment of silence, Su Yang, Yinin, as you know, the business of our company has declined greatly. Recently, the Blue Ocean Group has won the bid for this major cultural tourism project in Wanqiao Town. We must find a way to win the bid. Wanqiao Town is a major project in Hangzhou City this year with an investment scale of more than 5 billion. The subsequent planning and consulting for this project itself is a major undertaking. More importantly, after the enterprises in the park have settled in, there will be many more projects for consulting. Jiang Mingyi, the patriarch of the Jiang family, went into business in his early years and founded the Sifang Zonghong Consulting Company. After 2 generations of development by the patriarch and Jiang Boyun, Sifang Zonghong has become a leading domestic consulting company. The main business of the company is to provide real estate companies with various preliminary project planning and consulting services. At its peak, the company received more than 200 million yuan in consulting fees each year. However, over the years, the real estate industry has shrunk and declined significantly, and Sifang Zonghong has also been hit hard. Although it has tried to transform its business into other fields, it has not seen much improvement. At present, Sifang Zonghong can only barely struggle to break even. Jiang Siyin became interested as soon as she heard about the project. Dad, the Wanqiao Town project sounds good. We at Sifang Zonghong can definitely take on the planning and consulting for this project. Grandpa Jiang spoke up from the side. That's easy for you to say. Everyone knows that Wanqiao Town is a rare good project that has emerged in recent years. Not only are there consulting firms from Hangzhou, but even famous foreign consulting firms from Meccansea have sent someone to follow up on this project. It is estimated that there are dozens of consulting firms eyeing this piece of fat meat. The pressure of competition can be imagined. Jiang Siyin was suddenly a bit discouraged, so what should we do? So we can't get this project? Zhang Boyun took a sip of tea and casually spit out the name of a person in 3 words. Xia Yuluo. As long as we contact her, there is hope. Chapter 7 Jiang Siyin becomes general manager. Xia Yuluo? Jiang Siyin asked curiously, Xia Yuluo? Dad, you're not talking about the daughter of the Blue Ocean Group's chairman, are you? Jiang Buyun nodded. That's right. This project was organized by Xia Yuluo of the Blue Ocean Group. Xia Yuluo is the sole successor of the Blue Ocean Group in the future. It is said that the Blue Ocean Group has invested more than 1 billion yuan in the Wanqiao Town project. Whether it makes money or not is not important. The main purpose is to give Xia Yuluo practice and play, and to facilitate Xia Yuluo's future control of the Blue Ocean Group. Therefore, if Xia Yuluo gives her approval, there is still a good chance of getting the project planning for Wanqiao Town. Jiang Siyin looked troubled. How easy is it to find Xia Yuluo of the Blue Ocean Group? Xia Yuluo is usually very low-key and never appears in public. Now the outside world just says that the Xia family's daughter is incredibly beautiful and the #1 beauty in Hangzhou. But few people can get in touch with her, and no one even knows what she looks like. In addition, the Xia family controls the Blue Ocean Group, which is the most powerful company in Hangzhou. It's really too difficult to get connected with the Xia family with Sifang Zongheng's strength. Zhang Boyun saw Jiang Siyin's expression and seemed to guess what she was thinking. After taking out 2 invitations, Jiang Boyun said, "The Wangqiao Town project is too important to us. Even if there is only a glimmer of hope, Sifang Zongheng will still fight for it." Tomorrow, the Blue Ocean Group will hold a project promotion meeting for Wangqiao Town at the Hangzhou International Conference Center to warm up and build momentum for the project in the early stages. These are 2 invitations to the promotion meeting. Yin and Su Yang, you two will represent Sifang Zongheng at the promotion meeting. See if you can get in touch with Xia Yuluo. Jiang Siyin became excited. Since there is such an opportunity, it's a good thing. In the consulting industry, Sifang Zongheng's reputation and performance are there for all to see. Sifang Zongheng occupies more than 60% of the market share of real estate consulting and planning in Hangzhou City. If I meet Xia Yuluo then, get to know him, get close to him, and then introduce Sifang Zongheng's performance, I think I have a good chance of getting the planning opportunity for Wangqiao Town. Jiang Siyin said, "Then I'll get ready. I'll go to the promotion meeting as the general manager of Sifang Zongheng, and take the opportunity to establish contact with the people from Blue Ocean Group, so that it will be easier for us to do business together in the future." During Jiang Siyin's 3 years abroad, Su Yang basically took care of the business of Sifang Zongheng. The old master and Zhang Boyun helped out with ideas behind the scenes. Now that he heard that Jiang Siyin planned to take over as the company's general manager, Zhang Boyun frowned and said, "Yin, you just returned to the country, and the domestic business situation has changed a lot in the past 3 years. There has to be a process. You should still transition with Su Yang, and then slowly take over when you are familiar with it." Jiang Siyin pouted and said a little unsatisfiedly, "Dad, didn't I study abroad to study business management so that I could expand the business of Sifang Consulting? Now that I've graduated, I want to come back and help the family with the business, so why are you stopping me? Besides, you haven't asked Su Yang to quit. Su Yang can still help Sifang Zongheng, and we can always hand over and transition things at any time." Afterwards, Jiang Siyin turned to Su Yang and said meaningfully, "Su Yang, we grew up together, you won't compete with me for the position of general manager of Sifang Zongheng, will you?" Su Yang smiled and said, "Of course not. Sifang Zongheng was originally your family's company, and you are definitely the most suitable person to be the general manager." Su Yang had long since not wanted to be the general manager anymore. A few years ago, Han Xin, the eldest sister of Su Yang's adoptive family, started her own business in Fenghua. At first, she wanted to do cross-border e-commerce, but it didn't go well. Later, she wanted to switch to the jewelry business, but she didn't have the startup capital. After learning about the situation, Su Yang didn't hesitate for a second and gave Han Xing all the savings she had since starting work, and then borrowed some from Sifang Zongheng Company, putting together 10 million yuan and giving it to Han Chang. Catching the tailwind of the rapid development of the jewelry industry in Maple Country, Han Chang completely expanded the jewelry business. Han Chang built BK into Maple Country's top jewelry brand, opened more than 10 branches, and the daily turnover was tens of millions of yuan. A year ago, Han Xing transferred 90 million yuan in dividends to Su Yang's account. Su Yang didn't want the money, but Han Xing insisted. Han Xing said that if it weren't for Su Yang's support of 10 million yuan at the time, there would have been no BK Jewelry later. BK Jewelry has half of Su Yang's shares, and the dividends given to Su Yang are justified. So Su Yang has long been financially free and can lie down. If it weren't for the constant entreaties of the old man and Zhang Boyun, Su Yang would have been too lazy to bother with the company. Now that Jiang Siyin is taking over as general manager of Sifang Zongheng, Su Yang is happy to go along with the plan. After a long discussion with Zhang Boyun, Su Yang still doesn't want to be the general manager. Zhang Boyun can only say helplessly to Su Yang, "Yin has just returned to China and doesn't know anyone here. Su Yang, you have been with the company for a long time, so no matter what, you have to help more. Both the old man and I are getting old and our energy is not what it used to be. In the future, the company will be in your 2 hands." Su Yang nodded, "Don't worry, as long as there is something I can do for Sifang Zongheng, I will definitely do my best." Jiang Siyin smiled and said, "Dad, Grandpa, don't worry. In addition to Su Yang, my brother-in-law Situ Chon will also help me develop the company's business. He also has a master's degree in economic management from abroad and has experience in the Big Four consulting firms abroad. In the future, he can also help our family grow the business together. Jiang Boyun's face immediately changed. Inin, how many times have I told you? Keep away from that pretty boy. Why don't you listen? Don't even think about letting that pretty boy in the door, let alone letting him get his hands on our Jiang family business. Jiang Siyin saw that Jiang Boyun and the old man's faces were getting angrier and angrier, so she had to give up and plan to discuss it with Situchong again later. After finishing dinner at the Jiang family, Jiang Siyin was about to leave. The old man called out to Jiang Siyin, Inin, where are you going? I'm going out to see some old classmates and friends from Hanzhou. It's been a long time since I saw them. The old man's face was gloomy. Looking for your classmates? I think you want to go find your pretty boy. I'm telling you, Inin, you're not going anywhere today. You and Su Yang will stay here tonight. You and Su Yang haven't seen each other in a long time, so you and Su Yang can have a good chat tonight. Tomorrow you and Su Yang will go to the promotion meeting together. Jiang Siyin was thinking about Situchong, but she didn't dare disobey the old man's words, so she had to stay. In the evening, she returned to the bedroom. Jiang Siyin looked at Su Yang's helpless face. Su Yang, I beg you. Even if you want to be with me, don't be such a pest, okay? You were the one behind the idea of asking the old master to let me stay here, weren't you? You just know to use the old master to pressure me. I tell you, you can't even think about touching me tonight. After that, Jiang Siyin took out a quilt and bedroll, spread them on the floor and arranged them. Then she went to the balcony of the bedroom and took out her phone to call Situchong. Su Yan looked at Jiang Siyin through the glass door of the balcony as she made the call, looking like a little woman. He didn't feel much in his heart. Before, he had thought that Jiang Siyin had a good figure and was quite pretty. However, since taking up with the woman from the Xingshui mansion, Su Yang had completely opened the door to a new world. There were so many women out there. Double DS are not much better than a cups? Chapter 8, everything else is fine, except that I'm a little pregnant. Thinking about the female tenant's double DS, Su Yan suddenly felt a little sad and reluctant. He had said such harsh things the other day, and he wondered if the female tenant had really moved out today. To be honest, Su Yang was conflicted. Before, he had hoped that the female tenant would move out soon and end the relationship quickly. Now that the female tenant is really moving out, I actually feel a little reluctant. However, Su Yang then made up his mind, no matter what, he had to end his relationship with the female tenant. It was not easy to get out of this relationship with Jiang Siyin, and he could not possibly fall into another relationship with a woman. Jiang Siyin came back from the balcony after making a phone call. Seeing Su Yang lying on the bed getting ready to go to sleep, Jiang Siyin pointed at the floor and said, Su Yang, you get up and sleep on the floor, I want to sleep in the bed. Su Yang rolled over and smiled faintly, you made the floor, of course you sleep. Or you can sleep with me, I don't mind. Rascal. No manners at all. Jiang Siyin was so angry that she threw a pillow at Su Yang, but she had no choice but to sleep on the floor. Su Yang's phone rang. The caller ID showed the female tenant. Su Yang's mouth curled up slightly as he answered the phone. Hey, baby, what's up, calling me so late? The woman on the other end of the line was full of anger. Su Yang. Did you put the two toads in my quilt? Are you trying to scare me to death? Over the phone, Su Yang could almost see the woman in the next apartment, shocked and angry. Su Yang's smile grew wider. I was just joking. They're just two model toads. What are you afraid of? They're not real. If you're really afraid, just move out and find somewhere else to live. The woman on the other end of the phone got even more angry. Su Yang, you bastard. I'm not going anywhere, I'm right here. You hurry back and get rid of those two ugly things for me. Su Yang was amused. Just two models scared the woman like this. If he got two real ones over here, what would the female tenant be scared into? By then, if he got some animal models of insects, she would probably have to move out even if she didn't want to. Su Yang then said softly on the phone. Honey, I can't come home today. The old man has arranged for me to sleep in the same room as my ex-girlfriend. You'll have to find a way to solve the problem with the two frogs yourself. If I come back to find you now, the old man won't be happy. Okay, it's getting late. You should get some rest. And don't forget to find a place for us to live. The female tenant's emotions were clearly out of control on the phone. Su Yang, our relationship isn't over yet, and you're not allowed to be with another woman. Su Yang, speak up, don't you dare hang up on me. Before the woman could say anything, Su Yang hung up. Jiang Siyin heard the whole conversation clearly. Frowning, she asked, Su Yang, who were you talking to? The female tenant. Didn't I tell you before that I'm supporting a woman? Su Yang replied with a smile on the corner of his mouth. Su Yang, you're such a slut. We're still together, and you're supporting another woman? Jiang Siyin was furious, her eyes wide with anger. You got together with Situchong as soon as you left the country, then broke up with me. It's only natural that I would find another woman while I'm single, isn't it? Su Yang shrugged. You really found someone? What's her name? What does she look like? Jiang Siyin's voice was full of anger and alertness. I don't know her name. She's 26 years old. 170 centimeters tall, 38D, long legs, and long breasts. Oh, I'm sorry, that's backwards. Su Yang replied with a faint smile on the corner of his mouth. Jiang Siyin reacted. I don't even know the other woman's name, and she's a 38D. Su Yang is just daydreaming about women like crazy. Besides, Su Yang likes himself so much, how could he possibly be with another woman? It must be that Su Yang just heard me call Situchong, and Su Yang is jealous and upset, so he found a woman to call and act in front of me. Su Yang, you are really childish. Do you think that this will help your competition with Situchong? Jiang Siyin retorted to Su Yang and then lay down on the floor to sleep. Su Yang. Early the next morning, Jiang Siyin got up early. Today, she was going to attend the promotional meeting for Wangqiao Town, and it was Jiang Siyin's first day in office on behalf of the general manager of Sifang Zongheng Consulting. Jiang Siyin dared not slack off. After breakfast, Jiang Siyin returned to her room and started getting dressed. Jiang Siyin was almost dressed, and when she saw Su Yang still sleeping, she was furious. She slept on the floor yesterday, and her body ached from the pressure, so she didn't sleep well. How come Su Yang is sleeping so soundly? She lifted Su Yang's quilt and said, Su Yang, what time is it? Get up quickly. Hurry up and get ready, we're going to the product launch in a while. Su Yang got up groggily. Today is a formal occasion, and Su Yang saw Jiang Siyin wearing a suit and was admiring herself in front of the mirror. How is it? Is this outfit okay for me today? Jiang Siyin asked when she saw Su Yang come in. Everything else is fine. It's just that there's one thing that's a little bit lacking. Jiang Siyin turned to Su Yang and asked, What? What's lacking? Su Yang didn't say anything, just grinned faintly and gave a wicked smile. Jiang Siyin glared at Su Yang and said, Tell me, what's lacking? Z1 tone, Yun 4th tone, N1 tone. Su Yang said seriously. Z, Yun, N? Jiang Siyin was even more puzzled. Su Yang, what are you playing at? Su Yang took out a piece of paper and wrote something on it. Jiang Siyin took the note. She saw 3 words written on the paper. Jiang Siyin couldn't read it. What does it mean? Su Yang's gaze rested on Jiang Siyin's flat chest, and the smile on the corner of his mouth grew even stronger. Why don't you break these 3 characters down from top to bottom into 6 words and see? Jiang Siyin understood and went crazy, grabbing a pillow and throwing it at Su Yang. Su Yang, you pervert. Su Yang laughed and dodged, rummaging through the closet and pulling out a shirt and black suit to wear. When Su Yang was dressed, Jiang Siyin looked at him, a flash of surprise in her eyes. She had never seen Su Yang in formal attire before. She had no idea that Su Yang could look so handsome when he dressed up. Su Yang looked completely different from before, and his entire aura seemed to have changed. After having breakfast at home, Su Yang and Jiang Siyin said goodbye to the Jiang family and drove to the Hangzhou International Conference Center. Passing by a gold shop, Jiang Siyin asked Su Yang to pull over. In a short while, Jiang Siyin got into the car with a huge, beautifully packaged golden paiyao. Su Yang is puzzled. What is this for? Jiang Siyin, I heard that Madame Shou of Blue Ocean Group will also be there. I heard that Madame Shou is Xia Yulua's grandmother and has a lot of say in Blue Ocean Group. If we have the opportunity to meet Madame Shou, we can win her over by giving her this gold pichou. If Madame Shou speaks, won't there be hope for the planning of Wangqiao Town? Su Yang, a paiyou this big can't be cheap. I'd say that so many people are eyeing the fat piece of meat that is Wangqiao Town. There's no hope for this project planning, so let's go watch the fun and get a free meal. Jiang Siyin snorted, what do you know? This is called not catching a wolf without giving up your children. What if we get this project? Chapter 9, Attending the Promotion Meeting. An hour later, the two arrived at the parking lot of the Hangzhou International Conference Center. There were rows of luxury cars parked at the entrance. The sky was filled with all kinds of balloons, all with various slogans wishing Wangqiao Town a smooth development. The Hangzhou International Conference Center is also a property of the Blue Ocean Group. The conference exhibition hall and banquet hall together cover a total area of 100,000 square meters. Today, the Blue Ocean Group has chartered the entire place for the exhibition to announce Wangqiao Town. Jiang Siyin and Su Yan could feel the lively atmosphere as soon as they set foot in the venue. The hall was filled with people, and celebrities from all walks of life gathered there. The interior of the conference center was luxuriously decorated, with huge crystal chandeliers emitting a soft glow that reflected on the smooth marble floor. The hall was divided into two parts. On one side was the press conference hall, which could accommodate nearly 1,000 people, and on the other side was the banquet hall. More than 100 tables were set up in the banquet hall. According to the people nearby, the food prepared for this banquet is top-notch, with lobsters and abalones being airlifted in from abroad, and the red wine costing tens of thousands of yuan per bottle. Jiang Siyin looked at the layout of the conference center and the more than 100 tables of top-notch banquets, and couldn't help but show an envious look. Before, she only knew that the Blue Ocean Group was a top wealth group in Hangzhou and even the whole country. However, she never had a concrete concept of it. Now she almost had one. Su Yan couldn't help but sigh that the Xia family really had a huge family business. Wangqiao Town has only taken on a project that is a world away from its current business, and yet it has made such a big fuss over a press conference. Su Yan looked at the printed agenda for the conference. The first item was the welcome speech by the Minister of Culture and Tourism. It was surprising that an official from a national ministry could be invited to a conference to promote a cultural tourism project. This showed just how much power the Xia family had. At that moment, there was a commotion and a buzz of conversation at the entrance to the conference hall. Grandma Xiao of the Xia family was here. Looking in the direction of the noise, she saw an old lady surrounded by a crowd of people walking towards the VIP waiting room next to the conference hall. Although the old lady was old, her hair was completely white. But she was full of energy, with a steady pace and a powerful aura. She must be the person in charge of the Xia family, old lady Xiao. Jiang Siyin immediately stood up from her seat when she saw this. She knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. She quickly straightened her clothes to make sure they were all in order, then said to Su Yan, you wait here for me, I'll try to see if I can give the golden pichot to old lady Xiao. Su Yan nodded. After Jiang Siyin left, Su Yan looked at the time, and there was still a while before the promotional meeting in Wangqiao Town began. So he went out of the conference hall and smoked a cigarette at the door to get some fresh air. At that moment, a Rolls-Royce stopped in the reserved VIP parking space at the door. A suit-clad chauffeur got out of the car and respectfully opened the back door. A woman wearing a black suit and skirt slowly got out of the back seat. Her breasts were huge, pushing up the shirt inside the suit on her upper body. Her lower body had perfect proportions. She had long, slender and well-proportioned legs. She walked with a light and confident gait, as if the whole world was under her control. Su Yang's gaze was drawn to her involuntarily, and he secretly admired in his heart that this woman's figure was simply rare and exquisite. Then, Su Yang's gaze shifted from the woman's legs to her face. After taking a good look at the woman's features, Su Yang's body stiffened and he was left dumbfounded. The woman had delicate features, her long hair was tied up, revealing a slender neck, and she wore a pair of small diamond earrings on her earlobes, which shimmered with a faint light. Her delicate face was like a work of art, every detail of which appeared harmonious, whether it was her small ears or her well-defined chin, all of which revealed a carefully crafted beauty. The lips have soft lines, the upper lip lightly covering the lower lip, and the slightly upward curve revealing a natural gentleness and delicacy. However, why does this woman's face look so familiar? Why does she look so much like the female tenant that Shang Xingfu was supporting? Su Yan quickly dismissed such a thought. This woman and the female tenant that Shang Xingfu was supporting have completely different personalities. This woman, who arrived in a Rolls-Royce, has a cold temperament and exudes a powerful aura that keeps people away. But the female tenant looked like a recent college graduate, full of enthusiasm and unrestrained, smiling all the time. In bed, she was even a bit of a flirt. The various positions in bed were extremely cooperative. Sometimes Su Yan often joked that the female tenant's voice was so loud that the whole building was about to collapse. The female tenant, on the other hand, often joked that Su Yang had a dog's waist. So, how could such a reckless and passionate college girl be such a cold and aloof career woman? What's more, if the female tenant drove a Rolls Royce and had a full-time chauffeur, how could she let herself be supported by her for 30,000 yuan a month? Su Yang convinced herself that she must have made a mistake. The woman who got out of the Rolls Royce saw Su Yang smoking at the door, and her gaze swept past Su Yang for a second before quickly turning away. Instead, she walked into the conference hall with the person next to her. The brief encounter of their gazes was frosty and icy, and there was no sign that the woman had even recognized Su Yang. Su Yang was even more convinced that she must have mistaken someone else for him. However, Su Yang still felt a little uneasy. How could there be two women in the world who looked so similar? Maybe they were twins? After a while Su Yang was wondering, his phone rang. The caller ID showed the female tenant. Su Yang's heart skipped a beat, and she looked in the direction of the lobby in a reflex, but she didn't see the woman's figure. After the phone connected, there was silence for a few seconds, and then the woman's cold voice came through. Su Yang, are you at the Hangzhou International Conference Center? Su Yang's heart suddenly started pounding. It was really her. The woman who had just gotten out of the Rolls Royce was really the mistress she had been keeping. He had thought that the two of them would never cross paths again, but he had never expected to meet the mistress at the conference center. Seeing Su Yang not speaking on the phone, the woman's cold voice rang out again over the phone. Speak. Su Yang. What are you doing here at the Hangzhou International Conference Center? Su Yang, you just saw me, why aren't you saying anything? Su Yang, are you such a coward? Su Yang reacted, saying indifferently, oh, I came here to look for project opportunities. To see if I can get the planning for the Wangqiao Town project. What are you doing here? Did you come here with that man named Hai? The first time Su Yang picked up the drunk female tenant from in front of the bar, the woman kept calling out the name of the man named Hai. The two had a relationship of patronage, and they seemed to have always maintained a certain tacit understanding. Su Yang never asked the female tenant who this man named Hai was, and the female tenant never asked about his family either. But now that she is here, Su Yang guessed that the only explanation is that she is here to see the man named Hai. After all, the people attending today's event are all elites and successful people from Hangzhou. Su Yang, don't you dare mention that man Hai to me. The woman said coldly, and the call was disconnected. Su Yang thought that the signal was bad and called the woman back. But just as the phone rang once, the call was hung up. Su Yang then realized that he might have just annoyed the woman. Su Yang had too many questions in his head. Why was the female tenant here in a Rolls Royce? Why did she hang up the phone as soon as she mentioned the man at the sea? Chapter 10, The True Identity of the Female Tenant. Unable to figure it out, Su Yang simply gave up trying to understand. In the end, he and the female tenant would part ways anyway, so there seemed to be no point in thinking about it. After finishing his cigarette, Su Yang returned to the lobby. Soon after, Jiang Siyin returned, looking dejected, and sat down next to Su Yang. What happened? Did you give the golden picio away? Su Yang asked. Forget it. There were too many people giving gifts. I just finished giving gifts, and before I could introduce Si Fong Zonghong to Granny Xiao, she went to greet someone else. Seeing Jiang Siyin's dejected expression, Su Yang gloated. Look, the golden picio you bought for 300,000 yuan has gone down the drain, hasn't it? I told you so, gifts are useless. All the people here today are big shots. Even people from the ministry are here, so how can the Xia family pay any attention to us? Jiang Siyin became even more depressed. Su Yang, don't say such sarcastic things here, I'm just looking out for the company's best interests. If you're so capable, then come up with a better solution. 10 o'clock sharp. The promotion meeting officially begins. After the leaders of the ministries and commissions, the leaders of all levels of Hangzhou City, and scholars and experts have finished their speeches. The host of the promotion meeting takes the microphone and goes on stage. Next, please welcome Ms. Xia Yuluo of Blue Ocean Group to come up to the stage and introduce the project planning and vision for Wangqiao Town. The audience bursts into warm applause. The venue suddenly begins to stir, and many people in the venue begin to whisper and discuss. Here she comes, here she comes. Xia Yuluo, the daughter of the Blue Ocean Group, is finally about to make her appearance. This Xia Yulu is so mysterious and low-key, and she has never appeared in public. I'm really curious about what this Xia family heiress looks like. When Xia Yulu came on stage wearing a suit and holding a microphone, the crowd gasped again and chattered. as everyone's attention was focused on Xia Yulu. A few playboys saw Xia Yulu on stage and started fighting over her. Wow, this is the legendary Xia Yulua, the Xia family's only daughter. She's so beautiful. There's no doubt that Xia Yulua is the most beautiful woman here today. Even in a professional outfit, she's extremely plain, but she can't hide her stunning face. If I could have a relationship with such a beautiful and rich woman, I would be willing to live 3 years less. Don't fight with me, Xia Yulua is mine. Xia Yulu walked onto the stage, took the microphone, spoke with grace and eloquence, her voice clear and bright, like a yellow oriole. In addition to the pleasant sound of her voice, what was more important was the temperament and demeanor of her speech, which revealed a kind of confidence and composure. She did not look at the script, but calmly introduced the project plan for Wanqiao Town. Her understanding of the project was profound yet easy to understand, allowing everyone present to feel her vision and determination for the future of Wanqiao Town. The audience was captivated, and they let out a few gasps from time to time. Su Yang sat in the audience, his eyes fixed on the once familiar figure on stage. A storm of emotions raged in Su Yang's heart. That woman who had been his kept woman at Shangsheng apartment was actually Xia Yulua, the heiress of Blue Ocean Group? He had always thought that she was just an ordinary college girl, and that by giving her 30,000 yuan a month, they could have mutual pleasure. But he never imagined that he was completely in the dark about the identity of this female tenant. He really couldn't figure it out. How did the female college student he paid to be his mistress suddenly become the daughter of a wealthy family? Why did she pose as a college student in Shangsheng apartment and be his mistress for 3 years without ever revealing her true identity? And why has she refused to move out of Shangsheng apartment until now? The promotion meeting was over. The people in the conference hall moved to the banquet hall next door. The banquet soon began. Grandma Xiao accompanied a few political figures to a small private room on the second floor of the hall. The first floor hall was reserved for Xia Yulua at the main table number 1. The people waiting to toast Xia Yulua formed a long line according to the table number. These people who went to toast had smiles on their faces, introducing the business of their companies one after the other, as if they were all trying to establish some kind of connection with the heir to the Blue Ocean Group and the big project in Wanqiao Town. Xia Yulu just got up and toasted each person who came to toast with a symbolic clink of glasses. Jiang Siyin and Su Yang sat at the 100th table or so. Although the food at the banquet was top-notch, Jiang Siyin was completely distracted. Her peripheral vision kept focusing on the main table, where toasts were being made. Seeing that the queue was almost complete, Jiang Siyin nudged Su Yang, who was still drinking. Su Yang, don't drink anymore, let's go quickly and toast Xia Yulua together. Su Yang refused to go, burying his head in the food. There are so many people toasting, it's useless to go, just sit back and eat in peace. Jiang Siyin was speechless. She took her glass and went over to the main table. After waiting in line, it was finally Jiang Siyin's turn. Jiang Siyin held her glass and smiled as she toasted Xia Yulua. Hello, Mr. Xia, I'm Jiang Siyin, the general manager of Sifang Zongheng Consulting Company. I'm very happy to attend your project promotion meeting. Sifang Zongheng Consulting Company has done many cultural tourism town projects across the country. I toast you with this glass of wine. Blue Ocean Group has won the big project for Wanqiao Town, and I hope that our company, Sifang Zongheng Consulting, will have the opportunity to cooperate with Blue Ocean Group in the follow-up planning and consulting. Jiang Siyin respectfully raised her glass, waiting to clink glasses with Xia Yulu. No matter who had come to toast in the queue before, Xia Yulu had stood up and politely clinked glasses. However, upon hearing the name Sifang Zongheng Consulting, Xia Yulu did not get up. Xia Yulua sat in her seat and said coldly, Sifang Zongheng Consulting Company? Isn't your company in charge of someone named Su Yang? Why didn't he come and toast with me? Jiang Siyin's expression was slightly embarrassed, and she hurriedly said, Su Yang is also at Sifang Zongheng. He is mainly responsible for assisting me in my work. In the future, if President Xia has any business, just tell me at any time. I will definitely do my best to organize the team to serve Blue Ocean Group. Xia Yulua's face was cold. Miss Jiang, I don't know you well. If you really want to cooperate with Blue Ocean Group, then bring Su Yang over here. The people around her who were toasting also saw the Xia family's daughter for the first time coldly facing the people who came to toast, and they all cast curious glances. After awkwardly standing there for a while, Jiang Siyin gulped down her wine in one go. President Xia, I'll drink this glass first. I'll bring Su Yang from our company over here to toast you. Chapter 11, Toasted. Jiang Siyin finished her toast and dejectedly headed back to Su Yang's table. She felt a little strange. Why was it that Xia Yulua knew Su Yang, but Su Yang himself didn't offer a toast? After thinking about it, Jiang Siyin figured it out. It must be that she has taken Su Yang's place as general manager of Sifang Zongheng, and Su Yang is upset about it. On the surface, he told the old man that he would fully cooperate with her at Sifang Zongheng, but behind her back, he refused to drink with her and make her look like a fool in front of so many people? How infuriating. Back at the banquet table, Jiang Siyin was even more angry when she saw Su Yang happily munching on a king crab. Jiang Siyin took the crab from Su Yang's hand and said angrily, "You're still eating crab at a time like this? You're so inconsiderate, Su Yang. I'm going to tell Grandpa on you when we get back." Su Yang laughed. "What's the big deal?" Jiang Siyin was indignant. "Now the boss of the Xia family, Xia Yulua, has asked you to make a toast. You obviously know the Xia family's daughter, so why didn't you offer to make the toast? Now, the boss of the Xia family has asked you to make the toast, and if you go now, won't that be rude?" Su Yang never expected Xia Yulua to make trouble on the spot. He had no choice but to grit his teeth and walk over to the main table with a glass of wine in his hand. There were still many people queuing up to toast Xia Yulua at the main table. "Sorry, just a moment." Seeing Su Yang come over, Xia Yulua smiled slightly and temporarily finished toasting the people around her. Xia Yulu's gaze went straight through the crowd and landed on Su Yang. "President Su, are you going to toast with me? Come over." Many of the people toasting were from upstream and downstream companies related to the real estate business of the Blue Ocean Group. They had their eyes on the big piece of fat that was Guangzhou Town and wanted to take the opportunity of the toast to get closer to the Blue Ocean Group. Now that they saw Xia Yulu ask Su Yang to come over by name, they couldn't help but feel a little envious. Only Su Yang knew that he was now on the hot seat. 2 days ago, he had forced the woman in front of him to move out of the Xingxue mansion, thrown her clothes off the balcony, and then put 2 toads in her bed to scare her. Now Xia Yulua had asked him to come over and toast, so there must be something up. Sure enough. When Su Yang went over with the wine glass, Xia Yulua's eyes were cold and her expression indifferent as she said, "President Su, I heard that your consulting firm, Sifang Zongheng, wants to take on the planning of Guangzhou Town. I don't think that matter is settled yet, is it? Do you think Blue Ocean Group will give you the planning project?" Xia Yulu had just toasted with someone else and lightly clinked glasses, so her face was more or less wearing a professional smile. But now she was talking to Su Yang, her eyes were cold, and no emotions could be heard in her words. The people around them instantly sensed that something was wrong. Many of them began to gloat in their hearts. It turned out that the Xia family's daughter-in-law was not giving priority to the all-rounder Mr. Su, but was deliberately being difficult. It must be that someone from the all-rounder offended the Blue Ocean Group, so the Xia family's daughter-in-law is acting this way. Su Yang smiled slightly at the corner of her mouth, took a step forward with her wine glass in hand. "President Xia, I didn't recognize you last time when we were waiting in line at the mall for dinner, and I accidentally got into an argument with you. I even threw your jacket down the stairs. Please forgive me." Su Yang didn't know which incident Xia Yulu was referring to, so he just made up a lie. He couldn't say that he had thrown Xia Yulu's clothes down the stairs because he wanted to end the relationship. Everyone suddenly understood, and they began to whisper. "This guy actually dared to throw Xia Yulu's clothes, he's got some nerve. Now Sifang Zongheng still wants to take the project from Blue Ocean Group? I don't think it's going to work." Jiang Siyin, who was standing nearby, suddenly became anxious. She had originally thought that Xia Yulu's summoning of Su Yang to make a toast alone would be a good opportunity. However, she never imagined that it was actually Su Yang who had offended Xia Yulua, and Xia Yulua was using the opportunity of the toast to settle scores with Su Yang. This completely implicated Sifang Zongheng Consulting, didn't it? Jiang Siyin saw this and spoke to Su Yang in a tone full of reproach. "Su Yang, what's wrong with you? You met President Xia at dinner, but you actually fought with him for a seat and even threw his clothes. Hurry up and apologize to President Xia." Su Yang filled his glass, smiled, and walked up holding the glass. "I was blind. I'm so sorry. I hope President Xia will forgive me for being a petty person. I'll drink this glass of wine first, and consider it my apology to President Xia." Su Yang held the wine glass and gulped it down. This glass of wine was at least 2 liang. After Su Yang gulped it down, a burning sensation spread through his throat. Xia Yulua's face still showed no expression. "President Su, that was my favorite piece of clothing. You don't think that after a glass of wine I'll forgive you, do you?" Su Yang reacted. With a slight smile, he said to the waiter next to him, "Waiter, open a new bottle of baijiu and bring 10 wine glasses." The waiter quickly carried out Su Yang's instructions and soon placed a bottle of white wine and 10 wine glasses neatly on the table. Su Yang picked up the newly opened bottle of white wine and filled the 10 wine glasses in turn. President Xia. Since a glass of wine cannot get you to forgive me, I will just keep drinking until you do. After saying this, Su Yang lifted up another glass of wine and gulped it down. Everyone was shocked by Su Yang's method and momentum of drinking. They discussed among themselves. This is too much, drinking like that? This glass of wine is too liang, 10 glasses is too caddies. This guy is desperate, fighting so hard for the company's project? Not even eating a bite, just drinking? Who told him to throw General Xia's clothes in the first place? Isn't he just asking for it? Xia Yulu watched Su Yang drink glass after glass, and a complex emotion flashed in her eyes. But she didn't say anything, and kept a cold stare on Su Yang. Xia Yulu knew Su Yang's drinking capacity. The two had also drunk together before when they were studying at the university, and Su Yang had drunk more than a gene. 1 gene equals 0.5 L without any problem. When Su Yang finished the third glass of baijiu in one go, Xia Yulu finally spoke. "Mr. Su, your apology is sincere. But apologies are apologies, and business is business. If Sifan Zonghong wants to win the bid for the Wangqiao Town project, I'm afraid it will have to show some real skills. What do you think would be a good name for the project?" Everyone now understood completely. The Xia family's daughter was indeed extraordinary, and in just a few words she had given Sifan Zonghong a difficult problem. Naming a cultural tourism town that would cost billions of dollars was not difficult. The difficult part was coming up with a name that was elegant and popular, unique, and memorable. What's more, Sifan Zonghong had not officially taken over the project yet. And this man had drunk so much wine, how could he possibly come up with a good name in such a short time? Chapter 12, The Town of Nanxi in the Spring Breeze. Su Yang was silent. His mind was racing. But without any preparation, he was a little dazed for a moment in the face of Xia Yulu's question. Seeing that Su Yang had not spoken, Xia Yulu said indifferently, "Mr. Su, it's not that I'm not giving your company, Sifan Zonghong, a chance, is it? If you, Sifan Zonghong, can't even come up with a good project name, how can I possibly give you the project?" Jiang Siyin was anxious and stepped forward, saying, "President Xia, what do you think of the name of the Wangqiao Club Med Resort? Club Med means simple, happy, and sunny. This name combines Chinese and Western elements, and can make people think of a relaxing and carefree vacation, and it also reflects international elements." Xia Yulu gave a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. He was not moved at all. "President Jiang, to put it nicely, your name is a combination of Chinese and Western, but to put it bluntly, it's neither Chinese nor Western. And this name has already been used for a project elsewhere. The town that the Blue Ocean Group invested tens of billions of dollars to build shouldn't be imitating other projects, should it?" Jiang Siyin's face turned red and then white. The atmosphere was a little awkward. Just as everyone was watching Su Yang with interest, waiting to see how he would get out of this situation, Su Yang raised his glass again. Holding the tall glass lightly in his hands, he gently rocked it back and forth, causing the white wine foam to slowly sway out along the glass. Tilting his neck slightly, he took his time. Sipping 2 glasses of wine in succession, tilting his head slightly and finishing them in one go. It was as if he wasn't accepting some kind of punishment, but rather enjoying the hearty and smooth taste of the fine wine. Just as Su Yang was about to take the 6th glass of wine, Xia Yulu blocked the glass, her lips slightly parted, saying, "Mr. Su has a good drinking capacity, but even if you finish all the wine on this table today, it will be in vain if you don't have a good case name. If Mr. Su thinks this wine is good, you can ask the waiter to pack a few bottles for you to take home and drink them slowly." Xia Yulu's words clearly carried a hint of sarcasm. The crowd around them burst into laughter and chatter. "If you can't think of a good case name, that's fine, but you're getting drunk. What a drunkard! I don't think this man will be able to save face today." More and more people arrived at the main table. Everyone's attention was once again focused on Su Yang, wanting to see how he would end up. Su Yang's face turned slightly red, and taking advantage of the slight drunkenness, he slowly recited a poem. In late spring, when the spring clothes are ready, 5 or 6 men in hats, 6 or 7 boys, bathe in the Yi River, enjoy the breeze at the dance pavilion, and return singing. Everyone was taken aback. They covered their mouths and started laughing. Su Yang should not be able to hold his liquor, having had a few drinks, and now he was talking nonsense. Xia Yulu looked at Su Yang indifferently. Mr. Su, what do you mean by bringing out this ancient poem from the Analects? Su Yang cleared his throat at the corner of his mouth and said in a deep voice. The meaning of this ancient poem is that after spring arrives, 5 or 6 adults take 6 or 7 children out for a spring outing. These people play by the river, feel the spring breeze on their faces, and after having a good time, they finally go home happily humming a little tune. I feel that the town of Wanqiao should ultimately be built into such a town with a sense of imagery and ancient poetry. Therefore, I think the name of the Wanqiao Town project should be called the Spring Breeze Nanxi Town. The crowd fell silent for a moment. Then someone unconsciously led the applause. Great! The name Spring Breeze Nanxi Town is both poetic and appropriate. Someone exclaimed. Indeed, the name gives one a feeling of warmth like spring as soon as one hears it, as if one is already in that town. Another guest in the crowd agreed. Xia Yulu's eyes brightened slightly, as if she was surprised by Su Yang's answer. Then she returned to her usual cool demeanor, and even her expression was a little colder than before. After a moment of silence, Xia Yulu said lightly, Mr. Su of the Sifan Consulting Company, you have certainly read a lot of ancient books. After saying that, Xia Yulu turned and sat down, without saying anything more. She turned to toast and socialize with the guests who had been waiting in line before, and the banquet resumed its lively atmosphere. This matter was thus settled. Jiang Siyin and Su Yan walked towards the original location of the banquet table. Jiang Siyin and Su Yan walked towards the original location of the banquet table. Su Yang had not eaten a single bite of food after drinking a few glasses of wine just now, and now his stomach felt like it was going to turn over, and his feet were a little unsteady. Su Yang instinctively wanted Jiang Siyin to give him a hand, but Jiang Siyin kept her distance from Su Yang, her face full of blame and reproach. Su Yang, you're really something. You offended the wrong person, the Xia family's daughter. Not only did you lose face in front of so many people, but the planning case for the Wanqiao Town project is definitely over. Su Yang was upset, but he was too lazy to say anything. He returned to the banquet table and just sat down. Situchong suddenly appeared next to Jiang Siyin. Yin, how is it? Have you got any ideas for the planning project for Wanqiao Town? Jiang Siyin frowned slightly. I'll tell you more when we get back. This Su Yang really makes people want to die of anger. Su Yang listened on the side, feeling a pang of unhappiness in his heart. But he was too lazy to say anything, and just sat there continuing to drink alone. Jiang Siyin was furious. Su Yang, what time is it and you're still drinking? Let's go. Just now Situchong drove here, so I'll give you a ride home together. Su Yang gave a small smile and continued drinking. No need, I can go back on my own. You didn't get anything for the 300,000 yuan you contributed to the dowry, and the food at this banquet is so good, you should eat more and try to get back some of the money you spent on the golden pixiu. Jiang Siyin stamped her feet in anger. It was already this late, and Su Yang still couldn't forget to mock the golden pixiu he had given as a gift, which had gone down the drain. If he hadn't offended the Xia family's daughter, how would Sifan Zonghong have been so passive on the Wanqiao Town project? Su Yang, you enjoy your meal. Jiang Siyin glared at Su Yang, not in the least bit happy, and then left with Situchong. Although Su Yang had long since let go of his heart, he still felt a little depressed as he watched Jiang Siyin and Situchong leave arm in arm, looking intimate. Su Yang was adopted from the countryside after getting lost as a child, but when he was later found, he could not integrate into the Su family. Later, he was adopted by a different family, the Jiang family. And although he had a good life, Su Yang always longed for a small family of his own. Su Yang and Jiang Siyin were in the same class in junior high school, and they even majored in the same subject in college. Su Yang had long since regarded Jiang Siyin as the person who would later start a family. However, Jiang Siyin ended up going with Situchong. Su Yang sat on the table and continued to drink. After a few drinks, half drunk and half awake, the light in front of Su Yang's eyes became blurry and jumped. His body felt light but sluggish, and the sounds around him seemed to be wrapped in cotton. The dream of establishing a home in the blue realm that he had always longed for also gradually became blurry. Chapter 13. Su Yang, do you like running naked? Midnight. Su Yang woke up and found himself lying on a strange big bed. After a long pause, Su Yang realized that he was in the presidential suite of the hotel on the top floor of the Hanzhou International Conference Center. Su Yang recalled that he must have gotten drunk at the Wanqiao Town promotion meeting and was sent to the hotel. Su Yang opened his phone and checked the room rate. The presidential suite costs 30,000 yuan per night. Su Yang's heart lurched, thinking that it was only because her sister Han Qing had given her 90 million yuan in dividends that she could afford the 30,000 yuan per night suite. Seeing the luxurious bathroom decor, Su Yang went in and took a shower. Afterwards, she came out of the bathroom, towel drying her hair, and walked to the living room of the suite, preparing to take out the bathrobe and put it on. Drip! A sound of a credit card being swiped came from the door of the hotel room, and the door opened. Xia Yulu opened the door and entered the room. She bumped into the naked Su Yang. The air froze for a moment. Su Yang was shocked and quickly wrapped himself in the towel. Xia Yulu's face flashed with surprise, but she quickly regained her composure. She gave Su Yang a brief glance, as if she was not unfamiliar with such scenes, and said with a hint of teasing in her voice, "Mr. Su, it seems that you not only like ancient poetry, but also like running around naked in a luxury suite." Su Yang frowned slightly. "I'm saying, Xia, isn't it a bit rude to enter a room without saying hello? And how dare you enter this room?" Xia Yuluo's face was cold. "This hotel is a property under our Blue Ocean Group, so I can go into any room I want. And I've seen those things on you 1,000 times before, so there's nothing to be embarrassed about." Su Yang suddenly felt a little embarrassed. In the past, she and Xia Yuluo had always gotten along very easily and freely as a mistress supported by Xia Yuluo. Now Xia Yuluo had suddenly changed, and her status had become that of the heiress and successor to the Blue Ocean Group, and Su Yang felt uncomfortable. Xia Yulu gave a light smile, as if she felt a hint of pleasure at Su Yang's awkwardness. She walked over to the sofa and sat down, elegantly crossing her legs, her gaze a little scrutinizing. The high heels at the bottom of her feet were taken off and hung on the nice-looking arches of her feet, swinging slightly up and down. "President Su, you seem to be very interested in the planning case for Wanqiao Town?" Xia Yulu's voice carried a hint of playfulness. Su Yang suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. "I thought, so what if you're the daughter of the Blue Ocean Group? I have 90 million lying around on my card, and there are also continuous dividends from BK Jewelry Company. A little wealth is enough for peace. It's enough to lie down for the rest of my life. If it weren't for repaying the Su family patriarch and Su Boyan for their kindness in adopting me, I wouldn't have to do the Wanqiao Town project." Thinking about this, Su Yang looked at Xia Yuluo with a discerning eye and retorted, "Ms. Xia, I've already drunk the wine, and I've already come up with a name for the project. In front of so many people, you've made things difficult for me in public. If you want to cooperate, then cooperate, if not, forget it. Don't think you can manipulate me with this. Sifang Zonghong can survive without your project." A barely perceptible smile flashed across Xia Yuluo's face. She held out her hands, clapped gently, twice. "Not bad. Interesting. This is the uninhibited and individualistic Su Yan I know. If I had to get you drunk and give you the Wanqiao Town planning project, then what's the point?" Su Yang laughed. "No wonder you didn't dare let me drink after 5 glasses of wine at night, you were worried about giving me the project planning." Xia Yulu continued Su Yang's words and sneered, "You're thinking too much, it's just the planning for a small town, I can give it to whoever I want. I'm just afraid that you'll drink too much and die, and that I won't be able to enjoy your body and your doggy style." Before, Xia Yuluo and I had always been in the Shengshengfu, but this time was the first time the two of them had appeared in a hotel together. Su Yang surveyed the exquisite creature in front of him, raised an eyebrow, and said half jokingly and half seriously, "Huh? Really? Do you want to do it now? This is the presidential suite, don't waste such a good environment." "Su Yang, you shameless rascal." Xia Yulu's face flushed, but a look of confusion and hesitation flashed in her eyes. It had only been a few days since she had parted with the man, but somewhere deep within her body, an inexplicable longing seemed to rise up faintly. Seeing this, Su Yang embraced Xia Yulu in his arms and kissed her passionately. This familiar kiss made the woman feel a little suffocated and dizzy, and her breathing became rapid. Just as the two were getting hot and heavy, Su Yang's phone rang at an inopportune moment. After hanging up, the phone kept calling obstinately. Su Yang was a little upset and impatiently answered the phone. On the other end of the line came the voice of Jiang Siyin. "Su Yang, where are you? Did you die from drinking? If I did, don't you worry about it. If you have something to say it quickly, if not, hang up, I'm busy." Jiang Siyin snorted, "Su Yang, the old man and my father are there. So, what are you going to say? You messed up the planning case in Wanqiao Town, and you drank so much that you didn't even get the Xia family's daughter to forgive you. Is that why you called?" Su Yang was impatient. "If that's all, I'll hang up." "Su Yang, what's your attitude? Why are you so impatient? If you keep acting like this, don't blame me for not giving you a chance. Jiang Siyin became dissatisfied on the phone. Su Yang snorted twice, hung up the phone directly, and turned off the phone. Then he continued to passionately kiss her. Xia Yulua suddenly lost interest, pushed Su Yang away, frowned slightly, and said, Su Yang, was that your girlfriend on the phone just now? You're not really with her, are you? It's this time of night, and you're still answering another woman's phone? Su Yang had long since stopped loving Jiang Siyin. 3 years had passed, and his heart had long since been hurt, scabbed over, and frozen. Not to mention Jiang Siyin, he could never be tempted by any woman. Su Yang lit a cigarette and said, let's just be a physical relationship for sleeping. You don't need to ask about my affairs with other women, do you? Xia Yulu stared at Su Yang and said, apart from sleeping, have you never thought about any other relationship between us? Su Yang smiled and said, what other relationship? What do you mean? Do you want to marry me? Chapter 14, it was just for fun, don't take it seriously. Seeing Xia Yulu fall silent, Su Yang exhaled a smoke ring and laughed. It's been more than 2 years, and it was all just for fun. I had fun, and so did you. Don't take it too seriously. Xia Yulu was obviously angry. Are you that attached to your girlfriend? I don't think she treats you well either. You're drunk as hell, and she left you alone with another guy. I don't think she likes you at all. Su Yang responded indifferently, of course I know she doesn't like me. When I was with you, she was already with another man. Xia Yulu's face turned even uglier. So, when we first had sex, you used me as a tool to get back at her? Your ex-girlfriend ran off with another man, and you were upset, so you found someone too? For 2 years, I was just a tool for you to get back at your girlfriend? Su Yang. You really are something. Su Yang couldn't help but think of the man named Hai that Xia Yulu had kept talking about after getting drunk that night. Without thinking, Su Yang blurted out. You say I used you as a tool, but what about you? Didn't you use me as a tool? When I picked you up from in front of the bar that day, weren't you drunk and kept talking about a man named Hai? Dare you say you didn't use me as a tool too? We're all the same, so let's not talk about each other. Xia Yulu's eyes reddened, and she glared fiercely at Su Yang. Su Yang had never seen Xia Yulu's eyes look so fierce before, and she couldn't help feeling a little guilty. The man Dahai seemed to be the one thing Xia Yulu could not tolerate. Just mentioning his name would instantly change Xia Yulu's appearance. Su Yang thought to herself, perhaps the man Dahai was the same for Xia Yulu as Jiang Siyin had been for her. It's been more than 2 years, and I've long since gotten over it. But Xia Yulua seems to still be deeply caught in the emotional whirlpool of this man. So, what's the point of talking about emotions? It's nothing more than adding a few more shackles to yourself. While pondering, a sharp pain came from his foot. Looking down, he saw that it was the high heels Xia Yulua was stepping on that had been stomped on hard. Xia Yulu put on her clothes, tidied her hair, which had been messed up earlier, and said to Su Yang in a cold voice. Su Yang, you son of a bitch. No one can use me as a tool. And, in the future, don't you dare mention this man Hai. Su Yang was wearing the hotel's thin paper slippers, and after Xia Yulu stepped on them with her high heels, he was in pain and gnashed his teeth. Su Yang was furious, and raised her hand high, ready to slap Xia Yulu. You bitch, how dare you step on me? Xia Yulu, however, did not dodge, and there was not the slightest trace of fear in her eyes. Instead, she defiantly reached out in the direction of Su Yang's raised hand. Su Yang looked at Xia Yulu's expression, her heart tightening, and the raised hand did not fall. Xia Yulu looked at Su Yang with a plaintive expression. Go ahead, hit me. If you want to hit me, why don't you do it? After a moment of hesitation, Su Yang's hand gradually let go of its strength. Su Yang sighed, and said lightly. We've been together for 2 years. During these 2 years, I felt that we were both quite happy. Now that this relationship is coming to an end, there's no need to be so unhappy and undignified. Xia Yulu was silent for a long time, her voice trembling slightly as she seemed to struggle to control her emotions. Su Yang, do you really have to be so heartless? Su Yang pondered for a while, then slowly spoke with a firm resolve. From the very beginning, we never promised anything, did we? We just took what we wanted. Now, I think it's time to end it. You can move out of the old house where you went to college. Xia Yulu stared at Su Yang for a while, took a deep breath, and said indifferently. Su Yang. I'll say it again, I'm not moving out of the old house where I grew up. You can't get rid of me. Xia Yulu left 2 sentences, looked at Su Yang hatefully, and turned around to leave. The more Su Yang thought about it, the more annoyed he became. How could this woman not understand how to part with someone amicably? She's the daughter of the Blue Ocean Group CEO. Why does she have to stay in that shabby house of less than 100 square meters? In a relationship like this, even if you don't want to continue it now, you will have to part ways in the end. Won't you have to face more pain and suffering then? Su Yang said to Xia Yulu from behind. No matter what your status is as a female tenant, or as the general manager Xia or the daughter of the Blue Ocean Group, you must move out. If you don't move within a week, I will throw out all your things and change the locks. The conversation ended on an unhappy note. Xia Yulu glared at Su Yang and left quickly. Su Yang watched Xia Yulu's back disappear at the end of the corridor, and an inexplicable sense of annoyance welled up in his heart. He knew that what he had just said might have been a bit excessive. But in this situation, one must stand firm. Although the relationship with Xia Yulu made him feel a little reluctant, his previous experiences with Jiang Siyin had taught him that once a relationship with a woman reaches the critical point where emotions are about to be involved, the relationship will only end up making people sad and miserable, and exhausting. Therefore, now that he has finally managed to extricate himself from Jiang Siyin's emotional quagmire, he absolutely cannot continue to get caught up in another emotional quagmire and engage in this kind of meaningless entanglement. Su Yang returned to his room, slammed the hotel room door shut, leaned against it and let out a deep sigh. Su Yang closed his eyes and once again the images of Azure Realm came to mind. In Azure Realm, there was a woman, a dog, a river, and a boat. It was a tranquil and peaceful place. The sun shone on the sparkling river surface, and the breeze brought a fresh scent. The woman sat at the bow of the boat, holding a book in her hands, occasionally looking into the distance, her face full of a contented smile. The dog lay lazily at her feet, occasionally wagging its tail. Su Yang lit a cigarette and took a few deep draws. The smoke filled the room. The ideal life in the blue realm that she had always longed for became increasingly blurred and distant in the haze of smoke. Su Yang doubted that she would be able to find this ideal place in the blue realm in the future. Chapter 15, Visiting the Old Man. The next day, Su Yang slept in until 9 o'clock and was woken by the vibration of his phone. It was Jiang Siyin's mother, Zhang Lan, calling. Zhang Lan asked if Su Yang was free and could come back to the Su family, saying that the old man wasn't feeling well and would like to see Su Yang. Su Yang immediately woke up and immediately agreed to Zhang Lan's request. After all, the patriarch of the Su family had always been very kind to him. Ever since he was adopted by the Su family, their relationship had been like that of a close grandfather and grandson. Su Yang quickly got up, washed up briefly, and hurried to the Jiang family. He went up the stairs of the villa to the second floor and arrived at the patriarch's room. From the room came the sound of Zhang Boyun speaking. "Yin, how was it when you went to the project promotion meeting for Wanqiao Town yesterday? Does Sifang Zongheng have any hope of getting the project for Wanqiao Town?" Jiang Siyin sighed and began to complain, "Dad, Grandpa. Su Yang messed up the planning project for Wanqiao Town." Previously, when Su Yang was eating out, he fought with Xia Yulua, the Xia family's daughter, for a seat, and even threw Xia Yulua's clothes away. Yesterday, when toasting, as soon as Xia Yulua heard that we were Sifang Zongheng, she specifically called Su Yang over to lecture him. There was silence in the room for a while. Zhang Boyun sighed, "In that case, don't force it." Jiang Siyin was not convinced. "No way, such an important project was messed up by Su Yang, and you're just going to let it slide with a casual remark? Sifang Zongheng is now counting on this project to establish the brand of cultural tourism real estate, and you're taking Su Yang's side too much, aren't you?" Grandpa Jiang coughed a few times, a little weak, and sighed. "Forget it. Su Yang is definitely not deliberately offending the Xia family's Blue Ocean Group. Since it has caught up, what can be done? If it weren't for Su Yang's help 2 years ago, Sifang Zongheng would have long since gone downhill and would not have maintained its current situation. How can I say that to him? Alas, I really didn't expect that Sifang Zongheng, which I founded with my own hands, would have come to this. It's almost time to go to the grave, and I can't rest in peace." Su Yang had long since made up her mind to withdraw from Sifang Zongheng, but the old man's words made Su Yang feel a little conflicted. Su Yang made up her mind. No matter what, the Wanqiao Town project must be won, and Jiang Siyin's father must not be made to worry about the company in his old age. Seeing Jiang Siyin talking in the room, Su Yang thought for a moment and decided to go in a little later. So she turned around and went downstairs to a garden in the backyard of the villa to have a smoke. He had just lit his cigarette when he suddenly heard a familiar voice on the other side of the villa's wall making a phone call. The wall was over a meter high, so he couldn't see who was outside the villa. But the voice on the other side of the wall was clearly audible. "Hello, Mom, I'm at Jiang Siyin's house. The old man and her family isn't well, so I had to come over and pretend to look after him even though I have to hold my nose." The man's voice was low and cautious, and he deliberately lowered his voice a little. Su Yang's cigarette paused slightly in his hand, and he frowned. The man outside the wall was Situ Chong. Situ Chong obviously didn't realize that Su Yang could hear the phone clearly despite the wall. He continued to speak in a high-pitched voice, intermittently saying, "Mom, I know that Jiang Siyin's family of scumbags don't like me right now, and they even called me a gigolo. But for the sake of the position of the party secretary in Jiang Siyin, I have to put up with it for now. As long as I marry Jiang Siyin later, everything will be fine. By then, they won't be able to do anything. Mom, I can't talk to you anymore. I'm going to Jiang Siyin's house first." Su Yang took a deep drag of his cigarette, and his brow furrowed even deeper. He had originally thought that Situ Chong and Jiang Siyin were just together because Situ Chong really liked Jiang Siyin. He just didn't expect that Situ Chang's intentions might not be that pure after all. Moreover, he had just cursed the people in the Jiang family as dogs on the phone. Su Yang's mood became complicated. After a moment of contemplation, Su Yang stubbed out his cigarette, turned and walked towards the villa, already having made up his mind. In any case, he had to find a chance to tell the old man and Zhang Boyun the real intentions of Situ Chong. After smoking 2 more cigarettes, Su Yang once again walked into the villa and went to the door of the old man's room, just in time to see Situ Chong carrying 2 boxes of gifts and Jiang Siyin standing in front of the bed talking to the old man. The seemingly solicitous face of Situ Chong was in stark contrast to the attitude he had displayed when he had called from outside the wall. The old man and Zhang Boyun did not look favorably on Situ Chong and were cold towards him. However, when the old man saw Su Yang enter the room, a warm light flashed in his eyes. "Su Yang, you're here." The old man's voice was weak, but it was full of love. Su Yang walked over to the bed and took the old man's hand. "Grandpa, I heard from Auntie Lan that you weren't feeling well, so I came to see you." Seeing this, Situ Chang's mouth curled up into an imperceptible sneer, but he quickly resumed his harmless appearance. Situ Chong turned to the old man and respectfully said, "Grandpa, I won't disturb you too then. Take care of yourself." Jiang Siyin's expression was a little unnatural, so she sent Situ Chong away together. The room was left with only Su Yang, the old man, and Zhang Boyun. Su Yang said softly, "Grandpa, are you okay?" The old man saw Su Yang and a smile of relief appeared on his face. "Su Yang, you're here." "I'm fine, it's just that my old stomach problem has returned." Su Yang sat down by the bed and took the old man's hand. "Grandpa, don't worry, I'll take good care of you. You don't need to worry about the company. I'll think of something else to do, and I'll definitely try to get Sifang Zonghong to accept the planning proposal for the Wangqiao Town project." The 3 of them chatted for a while in the room. Su Yang thought for a moment, and decided to tell the old man and Zhang Boyun what he had heard in the courtyard. "Old man, Uncle Boyun. I don't think the Situ Chong is someone you can trust. I don't think he simply likes Jiang Siyin. You should be more careful with this person." Zhang Boyun frowned and said in a stern voice, "I never trusted Situ Chong." "Su Yang, did you hear something?" "It's a coincidence that just now, downstairs." Su Yang was about to tell what he had overheard downstairs. The bedroom door suddenly opened. Jiang Siyin stormed in, furious. "You little Su Yang." Jiang Siyin's voice was a little shrill, interrupting Su Yang's words. She stared at Su Yang, as if she wanted to see through him. "Are you again talking behind Situ Chang's back? What has he done to offend you? Why do you always target him?" Su Yang was momentarily taken aback and hurriedly explained. "Jiang Siyin, listen to me, I don't target Situ Chong for no reason. I'm just a little worried." Jiang Siyin interrupted Su Yang, her tone tinged with mockery. "Worried about what? Worried that he'll take your place at Sifang Zonghong? Worried that he'll take me away from you completely? Su Yang, don't forget, I've told you many times, don't take advantage of my grandfather and father liking you to get them to do your dirty work behind your back. You'll only make me hate you more and distance myself from you. In front of the old man and the family, you're always acting like you're worried sick about the company's future, but behind the Jiang family's back, you're a different person entirely. At the presentation yesterday, the Wangqiao Town project proposals were a complete flop, But you were still sitting there mindlessly eating and drinking at the Xia family banquet, saying that you wanted to eat back the money you gave as a gift to the Golden Paiyao. Su Yang, aren't you ridiculous? Jiang Boyun finally rudely interrupted Jiang Siyin. That's enough. Yin, didn't I tell you not to hang out with that pretty boy? Why don't you listen? I'll tell you again, stay away from that pretty boy. Chapter 16, Meeting at Blue Ocean Building. Jiang Siyin felt aggrieved when she saw Jiang Boyun scolding her. Her eyes reddened for a moment, and she started to cry. Dad, Grandpa, you're so biased, aren't you? Su Yang messed up the Wanqiaotown project, and you're defending him instead of criticizing him. Siyin and I went to such lengths to find connections, all for the good of the company's projects, and to get the Wanqiaotown project, and you're still so mean to me? Seeing his granddaughter Jiang Siyin crying so hard, the old man softened a little. Grandpa Jiang patted Jiang Siyin's shoulder gently and comforted her. Yin, don't cry. We're not being biased, we just hope you can understand that company matters should be resolved by our own people. No matter how capable outsiders are, they can't be relied upon after all. Jiang Siyin wiped her eyes. No matter what, the Wanqiaotown project is too important to Sifang Zongheng. Su Yang may or may not care about this project, but as the company's newly appointed general manager, I and Situchong will definitely fight for it with all our strength. Su Yang, if you don't want to lose your position in the company, you should compete fairly, but don't play dirty behind my back. In fact, Su Yang was hoping for an early release. As long as he doesn't gamble or make trouble, the numbers on the card are enough to lay low for the rest of his life. Su Yang said indifferently. In that case, that's fine. I don't want to worry about it either. After handing over the work you're currently working on, I'll withdraw from Sifang Zongheng. After saying this, Su Yang turned around and left for the villa. After Su Yang left, Jiang Siyin let out a huff. She thought to herself that Su Yang was just saying nice things, and that he secretly longed to stay at Sifang Zongheng. Jiang Siyin called Situ Chong. Dear, we need to work extra hard to win the project in Wanqiao Town. I've already prepared the old man and my father, and I'll let you in on it later. As long as we can get the planning project in Wanqiao Town, we'll be able to gain a foothold in the company. Before returning to China, Situ Chong had sent in many resumes, but there had never been any good job opportunities. When he heard that Jiang Siyin had secured him the opportunity to work on the Wanqiao Town project, Situ Chong was ecstatic. Yin, don't worry. I'll do my best to get this project through connections. A childhood friend of mine, Wu Zhe, is the department manager of the Business Research Institute affiliated with the Blue Ocean Group. He is the one who is in charge of the preliminary planning for Wanqiao Town at Blue Ocean. I'll go find him and see if I can meet Xia Yilua again through Wu Zhe. Jiang Siyin also became excited. That's great. Chong, why didn't you tell me you had such a strong connection? There's definitely hope that we can get the Wanqiao Town project. If you really get this project, I'll convince my family to transfer you to Sifang Zongheng as vice president, and the two of us will grow the company together. In the afternoon, Su Zhitong arrived at the headquarters of Blue Ocean Building in a sharp suit and looked particularly energetic. The Blue Ocean Building is a landmark in Hangzhou. It has 68 floors and towers into the sky, symbolizing the Blue Ocean Group's dominance in the business world. As Situ Chong walked into the building, his heart was filled with anticipation and nervousness. This opportunity not only helped Jiang Siyin gain a foothold in the company Sifang Zongheng, but also had the potential to become a turning point in his career. After a while, Wu Zhe, Situ Chang's childhood friend, came downstairs and warmly greeted Situ Chong in the coffee shop in the lobby downstairs. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Situ Chong cut to the chase. Brother Zhe, I actually have a favor to ask this time. Wu Zhe smiled and patted Situ Chong on the shoulder. Between brothers, there's no such thing as a favor, just tell me if there's anything I can help you with. After taking a deep breath, Situ Chong expressed the idea that Sifang Zongheng hoped to participate in the planning of Wanqiao Town. After listening, Wu Zhe pondered for a moment and said with some difficulty, the Wanqiao Town project is personally overseen by our CEO Xia. Many planning and consulting companies are eyeing this project. I don't have much say in this. However, since you've asked, I'll do my best to help you make contact. I'll call CEO Xia Yilua right now. After hearing this, Situ Chong was overjoyed. Thank you so much, Zhegu. I will definitely seize this opportunity. 5 minutes later, Wu Zhe hung up the phone, looking dejected, and said to Situ Chong, sorry, brother. President Xia said she already has a preferred unit for the project planning of Wanqiao Town. Situ Chong suddenly fell into despair and complained to Wu Zhe. Brother Zhe, I really need this opportunity. Now that I've returned to China, I don't have a job. Xifang Zongheng is the place where I want to make a big splash after returning to China. If I can win the Wanqiao Town project, I will be able to gain a foothold in the company and even have the opportunity to become a vice president. Can you help me beg Ms. Xia again? Just now, when I called Xia Yulua, Wu Zhe actually crossed the line a bit. Xia Yulua even scolded Wu Zhu on the phone. Wu Zhe could not possibly go to Xia Yulu again. But looking at the sincere-looking Situ Chong, Wu Zhe could not bear to refuse him directly, so he said tactfully, "Okay, Chong, I'll try to help you again." Although President Xia has already shown some interest, the project is still in the early stages, and many details have not yet been finalized. I will keep an eye out for you, and if I get the chance, I'll try to persuade President Xia for you again. Situ Chong was slightly relieved. After bidding farewell to Wu Zhou in the lobby, Situ Chong turned around and prepared to leave the lobby. Before he reached the lobby, he ran into Su Yang. "Su Yang? Why are you here?" Situ Chong said with a slightly unnatural expression. Su Yang gave a faint smile, with a hint of teasing in her eyes. "Why can't I come? The Blue Ocean building is so big, can only you come here?" Situ Chang's heart tightened. He guessed that Su Yang was most likely here for the Wanqiao Town project of the Blue Ocean Group as well. It seems that, as Jiang Siyin said, Su Yang said he was withdrawing from Xifang Zongheng on the surface, but in fact he is holding on to the position of general manager of Xifang Zongheng and is still secretly competing with him. Su Yang is really someone who says one thing and does another. However, Situ Chong feels that Su Yang does not stand a chance. After all, even Wu Zhe, his close friend who has been liaising with the Blue Ocean Group's Business Research Institute, cannot guarantee that he will win the project 100%. Su Yang, on the other hand, has directly offended Xia Yulua of the Blue Ocean Group. Situ Chong said meaningfully, "Su Yang, are you still hoping to get the Wanqiao Town project? You have offended the daughter of the Xia family, and I don't think you have much chance of getting this project. You'd better not waste your time." Su Yang gave a faint smile after hearing this, as if he was not at all bothered by Situ Chang's provocation. He walked straight to the reception desk. "Hello, I'd like to see Xia Yulua." The receptionist at the front desk was slightly taken aback, obviously a little surprised that Su Yang had directly asked for Xia Yulua by name. However, the two people at the front desk quickly returned to their professional smiles and politely asked, "Do you have an appointment?" Su Yang shook his head, "No." The receptionist shook his head, "I'm sorry, if you don't have an appointment, you cannot go directly to see President Xia. Please contact President Xia and come back later." Seeing Su Yang get upset, Situ Chong gloated. "Su Yang, you've already thrown away General Manager Xia's clothes, so how could she possibly see you? Badgering General Manager Xia downstairs like this is not going to work." Su Yang was out of patience. "Situ Chong, if you can't find a job and have nothing to do, why are you standing here? Go and stay somewhere cool." Situ Chong thought to himself that Su Yang was really desperate. This guy is really ridiculous, trying to badger Xia Yulua in the lobby downstairs to get this project? "Su Yang, I'll be going now. Good luck." Su Chong gave Su Yang a meaningful look, shook his head, and turned to leave. Su Yang turned around and went back to the reception desk. "Excuse me, beautiful ladies, could you please tell Ms. Xia that I'm looking for her?" The two receptionists politely refused. "Sorry, we don't have the right to contact Ms. Xia directly. Please go back first, and come back when you have an appointment." Su Yang sighed in dissatisfaction. Is it really that difficult to find someone at Blue Ocean Building? After saying this, he took out his phone and walked over to one side. Behind him came the sound of the two receptionists discussing. Recently, after the promotional meeting in Wanqiao Town, there have been far too many people trying to find President Xia. This person is really something. Who does he think he is? President Xia is not that easy to see. Exactly, this guy even walks with a limp. Where does this cripple get so much confidence? I don't understand. I thought he had something to do with President Xia. Chapter 17 Filial Piety Doesn't Work. Su Yang opened WeChat, found the female tenant's WeChat account, and sent a message, "Are you there? I need to talk to you about something." After waiting a while, there was no reply. Su Yang then sent a black screen bomb directly to the WeChat account. Xia Yulua quickly replied this time, "Su Yang, are you sick? I'm in a meeting, why are you sending so many harassment bombs? If you send another one, I'll block you." Su Yang's mouth curled up slightly, and she typed rapidly on the phone's keyboard, "I'm in the lobby of your Blue Ocean building. I need to talk to you." Hold on a second. Xia Yulu quickly replied. How long is a second? I'll be waiting until my beard grows back. Su Yang teased. Xia Yulu sent a face with roll eyes emoji and then ignored Su Yang. In a little while, a woman in uniform with high heels arrived at the lobby, and after inquiring at the front desk, she walked up to Su Yang. Hello, are you Mr. Su Yang? I am Xia's secretary. Lumi. Xia is in a meeting, and she asked me to take you to her meeting room first. Su Yang smiled slightly and nodded to Lumi. Thank you, Secretary Lu, you've troubled yourself. Lumi politely smiled and gestured for Su Yang to follow her. Seeing Su Yang leave with Lumi, the two receptionists behind them were dumbfounded in disgust. Oh dear, what is this person's background? Xia's secretary personally came to pick him up? Who knows, but it seems that he and Xia have an unusual relationship. Apart from being a bit lame, this person is quite handsome. What's the use of being handsome? There are almost a company of eligible bachelors queuing behind Xia, and Xia doesn't even look at any of them, so how could he get his turn? Maybe he's a big shot. Let's not talk about it, or we'll get into trouble. Su Yang followed Lumi into the elevator and arrived at a spacious and bright office on the corner of the top floor of Building 68. Lumi poured Su Yang a cup of tea and said lightly, President Xia is still in a meeting. You and President Xia should be familiar with each other. Just wait for her in this office. Su Yang smiled and said, How do you know that I am familiar with President Xia? Lumi did not answer directly, but looked at Su Yang for a while. She said with a meaningful tone, I really don't understand why Xia always picked you out of all the people behind her. And you treated her so badly. You threw her clothes downstairs, insisted on moving her out of the house, and even slapped her. You're amazing, Boss Su. Su Yang was stunned. It seems that this secretary knows everything about the situation with Xia Yuluo. Su Yang took the teacup, gently blew off the steam, and teased, You're a competent secretary, boss tells you everything. Lumi smiled lightly and left the room. Okay, wait here in the office, President Xia should be here in a while after the meeting. Su Yang paced in the office. The office was over 100 square meters. It was spacious and bright, luxuriously decorated, and the high-end furniture inside showed a simple and elegant style. Su Yang sat in the large boss's chair and gently swiveled it. His gaze looked out through the floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking the bustling city. The Blue Ocean building was in a prime location, and from here you could clearly see the distant East Lake and the scattered high-rises. Su Yang couldn't help but feel in his heart that Xia Yuluo was indeed not an ordinary woman to be able to control such a huge group in this position as the successor. Sitting in the chair, Su Yang casually pulled open a desk and a stack of photos came into view. Su Yang casually looked at the photos and couldn't help but laugh out loud. Scissor hands, cute pouting lips, hearts. They were all selfies of Xia Yuluo in various strange poses. In one photo, Xia Yuluo was even wearing a comical cat ear hairband and making a funny expression. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, Su Yang would never have believed that this was the cute side of the CEO of Blue Ocean Group. Having been with this woman for 2 years, Su Yang didn't even have a single photo of her. They were about to part ways soon, and keeping a photo would be a memento of their ambiguous relationship over the past 2 years. After thinking about it, Su Yang took out the photo of the cat ear hairband and put it in his pocket. When he was older in the future, he might be able to take it out and reminisce a bit. Just then, the office door suddenly opened, and Xia Yuluo, wearing a professional suit and looking slightly tired and aloof, walked in. Seeing Su Yang sitting in the boss's chair, she was slightly startled, and then her brows furrowed. Su Yang, what are you doing? Hey, experience your luxurious boss's chair. Su Yang patted his bottom and got up, his gaze falling on Xia Yuluo's lower body. No wonder you bought such a wide chair. An ordinary chair really can't hold your big butt. Xia Yulu glared at Su Yang, walked angrily to the desk, sat down, crossed her arms on the desk, and said coldly, Su Yang, did you come here just to flirt with me with a smirk on your face? If you dare to say another disrespectful word, I promise to have the security guard throw you out. Su Yang shrugged nonchalantly, walked over to the chair opposite her, sat down, and said with a relaxed expression, Miss Xia, don't be so serious, I was just joking, right? Xia Yulu looked at Su Yang's limp walk and asked, what's wrong? Su Yang was furious. It's because you stepped on my high heels. And now you look so innocent. A trace of unnoticeable guilt flashed in Xia Yulu's eyes, but it quickly disappeared and turned into her usual coldness. Then Xia Yuluo sat in the boss's chair, signing documents while lightly asking, Go ahead, Su Yang, what do you want with me? Su Yang noticed that Xia Yiluo's hands were very pretty. The sight of her slender, pale fingers holding a pen as she reviewed documents was surprisingly pleasing to the eye. Su Yang was a little mesmerized. In the past, these good-looking hands had slipped over every inch of her body, and Su Yang felt a little dazed and unreal. Xia Yilu saw Su Yang in a daze and looked up at him. Speak. Are you mute? You're not here for the planning of the Wangqiao Town project again, are you? Su Yang came back to his senses and nodded gently. Exactly. I'm here for the planning case of this project. Xia Yilu looked at Su Yang with interest. Su Yang, you want to separate from me, throw away my clothes, evict me from the house where I went to college, and then slap me in the face. What makes you think I should give you Sifang Zongheng the planning case for such a big project? Su Yang was silent for a while, and simply told the truth. I'm doing this for the Jiang family patriarch. The old man adopted me when I was young and has been kind to me. He founded Sifang Zongheng with his own hands, and I don't want him to worry about the company while he enjoys his old age. This planning case is very important to Sifang Zongheng. Xia Yulua swept past a complex expression, and her gaze softened a little. She gently put down the pen in her hand and said lightly. So that's it, Su Yang, you are filial. However, what we are talking about now is business. Filial piety doesn't seem to work in the business world. Chapter 18 is at 11 o'clock? After all that Su Yang had said, Xia Yulua was not convinced. Instead, she looked at Su Yang leisurely and slowly, even with a slight air of smugness in her eyes. What a cold woman! Su Yang had no choice but to mutter softly and limped away, preparing to leave. A smile appeared on Xia Yulua's face, and she followed Su Yang behind her with interest. You call me cold? You're shameless. You slept with me for 2 years and then just said we were splitting up. Who's cold? Take it easy. I'll walk you to the door, but don't fall in my office. I can't be responsible for that. Su Yang glared back at Xia Yulu, unconvinced. She made up her mind, when she got back, she would throw out all the woman's things and change the locks. It was almost lunchtime, so after she finished eating she would go back and get rid of her things. Just then, Su Yang raised his hand to look at his watch and realized that he had forgotten to bring it. Su Yang turned to Xia Yulua behind him and casually asked, What time is it? Xia Yulua raised his hand to look at the watch and said coldly, 11 o'clock. Su Yang, is it even? Xia Yulua frowned and a blush passed over her face. Then she started to argue with Su Yang. Su Yang, are you out of your mind? All you ever do is talk about sex. You can't stand it if I don't have sex with you all day, can you? You like sex so much, why do you have to force me to move out? You pervert. Who wants to have sex with you? Get out of my office, now. Su Yang froze. Then he reacted immediately, sat down on the sofa in his office and started laughing wildly. Su Yang was laughing so hard that tears came to his eyes. The word zheng was the code word the two of them had used when they were at the Shangsheng mansion. In the old house at Shengsifu, the two of them could quickly understand each other's secret code with just 3 simple words, and they would have passionate sex. Xia Yulu had obviously misunderstood the word just now. Xia Yulu was furious and her face turned red. She walked quickly over to Su Yang's sofa and glared at him fiercely. Su Yang, what are you laughing at? Su Yang's laughter became even more unrestrained, and he simply couldn't stop. Xia Yulu punched Su Yang twice with her fists and said, Say it, Su Yang. What are you laughing at? Su Yang covered his stomach and finally stopped laughing. Xia Yulu, I was just asking if it was 11 o'clock, what's the big deal? Xia Yulu then reacted. She burst out laughing. Xia Yulu was amused by herself. Su Yang, you jerk, get out of here. Xia Yulu glared at Su Yang, cursed, and then turned towards the boss's desk, unable to hide the smile on her lips. This unexpected misunderstanding suddenly brought the two closer together. Su Yang caught up with Xia Yulu and, taking advantage of the fact that she wasn't paying attention, grabbed her from behind and hugged her tightly. Since they'd already said they were going to get serious, they had to get a little more serious. Su Yang, you dare to act like a pervert in my office? Xia Yulu's voice was resistant, but her body gradually became soft. She felt like a fluttering breeze in early spring, and her whole body was about to melt. In a short while, Xia Yulu's soft limbs wrapped around Su Yang's neck. Su Yang, no. Not in this office. Baby, not in the office? Then where? Back to the university? Su Yang whispered in Xia Yulu's ear. Xia Yulua pulled Su Yang to the boss's desk and pushed open a secret door. Behind the door was a cozy 50-plus square meter restroom with a relaxing aroma. There were a few exquisite paintings on the wall, a soft sofa and a small tea table, and next to the tea table was a double bed. There was also a shower room in the small room behind the bed. The layout of the entire room is surprisingly similar to the layout of the old house where she went to high school. Xia Yulu gently closed the door and turned to Su Yang. Su Yang, you big pervert. You're playing the field and you've come to the office. Su Yang smiled slightly. I was about to leave, and you're the one who started talking about getting it on. Xia Yulu gave Su Yang a pink fist, and then gently closed her eyes. Su Yang gently embraced Xia Yulu in his arms. The room was filled with a quiet and passionate atmosphere, as if the whole world had come to a temporary halt, leaving just the two of them. After half an hour or so, pleasure radiated from every pore of the two people's bodies. After the shower, the two continued to lounge in bed. Su Yang stroked Xia Yulu's beautiful hair, feeling her soft strands glide over his fingertips. Su Yang sighed. It seems like the two of us rarely do this in the daytime, huh? That's right, we only meet at night, and you've always used me as a tool to warm the bed. Xia Yulu said in a melancholy voice. Su Yang almost burst out laughing. You're the same. You talk as if you don't use me as a tool. Then Su Yang put his arm around Xia Yulu from behind and said softly in her ear, Xia, how about giving the Wangqiao Town planning case to Sifang Planning? Xia Yulu instantly came to her senses and hammered a fist into Su Yang's body. So you and I are in this together, is that why you came? Su Yang, you bastard, don't think that I will agree just because you've used your charms on me. Just as Su Yang didn't know how to explain. Xia Yulu's expression eased. Su Yang, it's not impossible for Sifang Zonghong to want to take on the project planning for Wangqiao Town, but I have two conditions. What conditions? You tell me. First, the old house where I went to school is still mine to live in. You can't kick me out again. Su Yang sat up in bed and looked directly at Xia Yulua, surprised. You are the daughter of the Blue Ocean Group's heiress, and you want to live in what kind of house? You can't live in any house you want. Your family has several of the top villas in Hanzhou, right? Why do you have to go and live in that old, run-down house in Xingshui Mansion? Never mind why, I just want to go and live in that house. I feel very at home in that house, and I sleep very soundly there. Su Yang thought for a moment. The house that Xingshui Mansion lived in was worthless, but a hipster designer was hired to slightly decorate it, and the entire house's decoration had a fresh literary style. However, he never expected Xia Yulu to be so fond of this old house. Su Yang also liked the old house very much, but if he could really get Sifang Zonghong to get the planning case for Wangqiao Town and put the old man Zhang's mind at ease, it wasn't completely impossible to compromise. At worst, he could just buy a new house. So Su Yang said, I can consider the first condition. What about the second condition? Xia Yulu hesitated for a moment and said indifferently. We can consider dating. You can be my boyfriend. Chapter 19, A Deal is Reached. Su Yang was taken aback. Then he burst out laughing. Miss Xia, are you kidding? Don't you have someone you like? That man named Hai. Xia Yulu's eyes suddenly became deep. Frowning, she stared at Su Yang. Su Yang, this is the third time I've told you. Don't mention that man Hai Dai in front of me. I'll say this for the last time. Looking at Xia Yulu's eyes, Su Yang felt inexplicable heart palpitations. He thought to himself, Xia Yulu, in this relationship with Hai Dai, she has been hurt so badly that she doesn't even want people to mention it. Fine. I won't mention it. Su Yang quickly conceded. Xia Yulu's expression eased a little. She continued. What do you say? Can you agree to my second condition and be my boyfriend? Su Yang pondered for a moment and said. Forget the boyfriend. I don't want to agree to it against my will just to achieve my goal, and then you'll still scold me for deceiving you. But we can continue to maintain the relationship we had before. We each take care of our own needs and don't interfere with each other's lives. When you find someone you like, we'll part cleanly, never get entangled with each other again, and withdraw cleanly. After listening to Su Yang's words, Xia Yulu's eyes flashed with a complex emotion, but soon she regained her composure. Su Yang, are you never going to consider relationships again? The mention of the word relationship caused a bitter feeling in Su Yang's heart. What relationship is there to talk about after what happened to the relationship of more than 10 years with Jiang Siyin? The seed of that relationship was buried long ago and sealed with concrete, and it will never sprout again. Su Yang laughed and said. Relationships? Of course not. Who talks about relationships these days? That's for kids. We just need to be happy together. To be honest, you're good in bed, and we get along well. Xia Yulu couldn't read any expression on her face, and her gaze was fixed on Su Yang as she asked. Su Yang, do you think you can separate the physical and the emotional? Don't you think that's a very low form of entertainment? Su Yang responded to Xia Yulu's intense gaze with an open mind, and replied. Men put their bodies first, and women put their emotions first. This is the biggest difference between men and women. I'm a man, so I freely admit that I'm an animal that thinks with my lower body. Maybe I'm a little different from other men, and that is that I would rather be an honest villain than a hypocrite. So, I can promise you the first condition. As for the second condition, I think we'd better just maintain the kind of simple and pure physical relationship we had before. If you insist that I be your boyfriend and talk about feelings, forget it. I won't lie to you to save face for a small town like Wangqiao. Su Yang felt a sense of relief after his long speech. There was a moment of silence. Xia Yulu smiled slightly. She nodded gently. Su Yang, I was just testing you. You passed the test. To be honest, I don't want you to be my boyfriend. There are so many good men behind me. I'm afraid that if we spend a lot of time together, you'll fall in love with me and get attached to me. Now that I know you feel this way, I'm actually relieved. I can still live in the old house on Xingshu Street. And we can keep the same relationship as before, no one gets attached. And we can keep the same relationship as before. Those are the conditions. Is it a deal? Su Yang's face lights up with an epiphany. You should have said so earlier. You scared me. I thought you really wanted to talk about a relationship. Miss Xia, you really are a veteran of the business world. You test the other person before reaching a deal and find out everything about them. Xia Yulu smiles with pride, of course. How can you make a deal if you don't even know the other person's cards? Su Yang smiles wickedly. To celebrate the happy conclusion of our deal, don't you think we should do something to celebrate? Xia Yulu understood what he meant. Damn, I just took a shower. Hey. Who says I don't have a legendary doggy style that you like? Half an hour later. Both were a little hungry. Xia Yulu simply made a phone call and asked the chef of the Blue Ocean Group's catering company to prepare 2 meals in the cafeteria on the ground floor and have them delivered. Main course, Australian lobster fried with garlic vermicelli. Side dishes, abalone and dried scallops, stir-fried string beans. Soup, cordyceps flour and chicken broth. Dessert, mango pudding and tiramisu. Su Yang looked at the sumptuous food on the table and couldn't help but exclaim. Miss Xia, you are really being treated very well. I feel that your treatment here in this office is better than the 5-star hotel I stayed in before. Xia Yulu gave a slight smile and sat down gracefully. We have reached such a pleasant deal today, so of course we have to celebrate. The two of them enjoyed the food and chatted idly. Su Yang suddenly remembered something and asked, by the way, what is the process for planning the next Wangqiao town? Xia Yulu gave Su Yang a glare. What? You're afraid I'll go back on our deal? Don't worry, I'll have my secretary Lumi send a letter of invitation to your company, and you can send someone to sign the contract later. Su Yang was so happy that he thought that Jiang Lei's heart problem had been completely solved that he gave Xia Yulu a big kiss on the face. Xia Yulu looked at him with disgust. You just ate, and you're all greasy, and you want to kiss me? Su Yang laughed and said nonchalantly, it doesn't matter if I'm greasy or not, what's important is that I'm happy. Seeing Su Yang's smirking face, Xia Yulu shook her head helplessly. After eating, Xia Yulu called Lumi. Lumi went to the office with the directional invitation letter, asked Su Yang to come over and fill in the corresponding information, and then apply for the official seal before sending it back to Sifang Zongheng by express. After filling in the information, Su Yang was a little puzzled when he saw the date on the invitation letter. Why is the invitation letter dated yesterday? Is there a mistake? Lumi, no. I drafted the invitation letter yesterday. Su Yang realized that something was wrong. You finalized the invitation letter yesterday? Su Yang, with tears in her eyes, said. Xia Yulu, so you finalized the plan to use Sifang Zonghong to do the Wangqiao Town project yesterday? Chapter 20, Sifang Zonghong wins the bid. Xia Yulu glared at Lumi, nonsense. Couldn't you just say you made a typing mistake? Lumi smiled awkwardly and nodded quickly. Yes, it was a typing mistake, sorry. After that, Lumi took the invitation letter and left the office. Suyang shook his head helplessly and turned to Xiaoyulu. I've lost big time this time. So you had already decided on Sifang Zonghong a long time ago. I wasted my time with my house and then had to sell my body to you. Xiaoyulu shrugged nonchalantly and laughed. Suyang, I'll use your exact words, didn't you say you also got off? Suyang gave a wry smile and said, fine, you win. Since a deal has been reached, I won't care about these things. As long as I can help solve the problem for the old Master Jiang, nothing else matters. Xiaoyulu nodded with satisfaction. That's right. By the way, you still haven't told me why you decided to give us Sifang Zonghong the planning for Wanqiao Town yesterday. Xiaoyulu smiled, because you're more handsome. So it's yours. Stop it. Just tell me what the reason is. Xiaoyulu's expression became serious. I looked at your company's performance, and it's basically considered top in the country. And when you were drinking the other day, the name you came up with for Wanqiao Town, Chunfeng Nanshi, really struck a chord with me. Is that name really that good? Su Yang was a little curious. He had had a few drinks that day and was slightly tipsy. He thought of a line from the Analects and, inspired, came up with the name Chunfeng Nanshi for Wanqiao Town. He hadn't expected Xiaoyulu to like it. Xiaoyulu smiled slightly, and a flash of appreciation appeared in her eyes. Chunfeng Nanshi is a poetic name that makes people feel as if they were in a warm spring, with the sound of the brook and the breeze on their faces. It is not just a case name, but also a state of mind, a lifestyle that people aspire to. What I want is just this kind of creative idea that touches people's hearts. Su Yang felt a surge of pride in his heart after hearing this. He had never expected that his improvisation would receive such a high evaluation from Xiaoyulu. Xiaoyulu continued, and when you were talking about the future plans for Wanqiao Town at the dinner table the other day, your passionate and creative description made me see your love and commitment to this project. I need just such a passionate and thoughtful partner. Su Yang scratched his head a little embarrassed. So you were listening in, but then you didn't drink your toast to me that day. Xiaoyulu snorted, you made me move out and threw my clothes away because you were always nagging me. Then Xiaoyulu said seriously. Su Yang, I have to remind you, don't think that everything is fine just because you got the planning proposal. Both personally and as Blue Ocean Group, I attach great importance to the Wanqiao Town project. Next month, the project will be reported to the province for a conceptual plan. Blue Ocean Group has finally got the Wanqiao Town project, so don't mess it up for me. Okay, Su Yang, you can go now, I have to get back to work. Starting from scratch and developing a town of 3 square kilometers is indeed a lot of work. Su Yang looked at the high pile of materials on Xiaoyulu's desk and knew that Xiaoyulu, as the helmsman of Wanqiao Town, really had a lot to do. But Su Yang still deliberately sighed and put on an expression of grievance. I've only heard of men pulling out mercilessly and putting their pants back on, but I've rarely heard of women telling men to leave after sleeping with them. Okay, don't worry, I'll get back to work on this plan and make sure it's perfect. Su Yang arrived at the office door and gave Xiaoyulu a flying kiss before leaving. Xiaoyulu called out to Su Yang, wait. Seeing Xiaoyulu's expression, Su Yang suddenly felt his heart tighten. Did I just offend the woman with that kiss? Su Yang walked back to Xiaoyulu's boss's desk. What's up? What are your instructions, boss Xia? Xiaoyulu glared at Su Yang. I forgot to tell you one thing. You need to go back to the school dormitory and take away the 2 toads that are in my bed. Su Yang burst out laughing. No way? Those 2 toads were just props. Are you that afraid of animals that you can't even take away the props? Where have you been sleeping these past 2 days? Xiaoyulu pouts, do you mean to say that apart from your house, I don't have any other place to live? If you pull any more pranks, I'll rip your ears off. The next day. In the large meeting room. Jiang Siyin, with a serious face, is holding a special seminar on Wanqiao Town with the employees of Sifang Zonghong. Although the elderly Mr. Jiang Mingyi is still a little weak, he is still worried about the company's business and has come to the company accompanied by Jiang Boyun. Sifang Zonghong's business has been sluggish recently regarding residential real estate, and the transformation of cultural tourism real estate-related planning is the strategic direction set by Sifang Zonghong Consulting. The planning of Wanqiao Town is the key to establishing the company's brand and authority. However, there are so many planning companies eyeing this project that it is difficult to get the planning case for this project. Sidu Chong went through Wuzhou to establish a relationship with Blue Ocean Group, but there was no response for the time being. However, Jiang Siyin still wanted to do her best to fight for it. After thinking about it, Jiang Siyin planned to make a breakthrough from the perspective of the technical plan. She planned to give a version of the planning proposal to Blue Ocean Group even if she did not get the contract for the planning of Wanqiao Town. On the one hand, it would show the strength of Sifang Zongheng, and on the other hand, it would show the sincerity of cooperation, so that they might find a chance. While Jiang Siyin was discussing the planning proposal with her colleagues, Xing, the receptionist, excitedly arrived at the large conference room with a delivery. Good news, good news. We've won the bid for the Wanqiao Town project. Blue Ocean Group sent this express delivery to our company, which is an invitation to a targeted bidding. Just now, Blue Ocean Group also called the reception desk to see if the express delivery had been received. Upon hearing this news, Jiang Siyin's face, which had been tense, instantly blossomed into a bright smile. She stood up excitedly, took the express delivery, quickly opened the envelope, and confirmed the contents. Great! We've finally got the planning proposal for Wanqiao Town, Jiang Siyin announced excitedly. The atmosphere in the meeting room suddenly became lively, and there was a round of applause and celebration. Although Grandpa Jiang Mingyi was weak in health, a gleam of joy also shone in his eyes when he heard the news. Chapter 21. Did Situchong get the Wanqiao Town project? The meeting ended. The employees who had been in the meeting left while discussing things. The three members of the Jiang family stayed in the large meeting room. Yinin, this success would not have been possible without your hard work, Zhang Boyun also said with approval. Jiang Siyin recalled that the main reason Sifang Zonghan was able to get the project was because Situchong had found Wu Zhe, a business researcher affiliated with Blue Ocean Group, and that had played a role. So Jiang Siyin took advantage of the situation and told the story behind it, and then put all the credit on Situchong. Although the old man was very happy to have gotten the project, he was a bit displeased when he heard Situchong's name. Yinin, I told you not to get involved with that pretty boy, Situchong. Jiang Siyin pouted, Grandpa, can you stop looking at people through tinted glasses? Situchong is also a foreign student who graduated from a top university. He also has experience working at one of the big four consulting firms. I'm going to ask Situchong to come over and help with this project. How dare you? The old man suddenly turned pale. Seeing that the old man was about to lose his temper again, Zhang Boyun quickly came out to persuade him, forget it. This time, I didn't expect that Situchong really helped Sifang Zongheng a big favor. Old man, don't always talk about Yinin. Then he turned to Jiang Siyin and said, Yinin. For work, you can work with Situchong, but for personal relationships, let me emphasize again that you must not let down Su Yang. Someone as good as Su Yang to you is hard to find. Don't be two-minded, otherwise you will regret it later. Jiang Siyin said perfunctorily, okay? I'm not a child anymore. Marriage and love are important life events. I know what I'm doing, so don't worry about me and just enjoy your retirement at home. This time, the company has been awarded the Wanqiao Town project, which is a great event. This evening, Situchong and I will treat the company staff to dinner at the Hangzhou Cantonese seafood restaurant. Grandpa, Dad, why don't you two come along tonight? The old man let out a sigh, coughed twice, and said, Yinin, you silly girl. You just won't listen. I'm too lazy to even look at that pretty boy. Boyun, let's go back. With that, the old man and Zhang Boyun left the company. Jiang Siyin felt bad as she watched the old man leave, and was a little worried about his health. But then she thought about how Situchong had landed such a big project and made such a big contribution, and she felt happy for him. Although the old master and Zhang Boyun did not approve of Situchong joining Sifang Zongheng, they did not oppose it strongly. This was already a big step forward. As long as Situchong was involved in the planning of Wanqiao Town, it was inevitable that the two of them would work together to make Sifang Zongheng stronger and bigger. Jiang Siyin called Situchong to tell him the good news. Situchong was also delighted. Yinin, that's great. It seems that my visit to my best friend Wu Zhe yesterday really helped. This is a really good start, and I will definitely help you grow the company in the future. Tonight, let's celebrate by treating the staff to a nice dinner, and get to know them a little better in advance. She hung up the phone. Jiang Siyin suddenly thought of Su Yang. Since returning to China, Jiang Siyin felt that Su Yang had always been aloof, with a rascal's appearance. He obviously liked her, but always pretended not to care. He didn't even call her much. She had to invite Su Yang to dinner today. People like Situchong just returned to China and already got such a big project, so what's so great about you, Su Yang? You must invite Su Yang so that he can understand his current position and increase his sense of crisis. Only in this way can he perform well in the competition that lies ahead. Thinking about this, Jiang Siyin turned around and called Su Yang again. Su Yang, let's go to the Cantonese restaurant Wanfu Seafood Hotel for dinner tonight? All the employees who are not on business trips will be there. Su Yang didn't think much about it. He just thought it was an ordinary dinner gathering and smiled and said, "Sure, let's go." It's rare for everyone to get together. That evening, the lobby of the Cantonese cuisine Wanfu Seafood Restaurant was filled with 10 tables of employees from Sifang Zongheng. There were more than 100 people. Su Yang arrived a little late. As soon as she crossed the threshold, she saw Jiang Siyin standing in the middle of the lobby, standing close to Situ Chong. Jiang Siyin was holding a microphone and introducing Situ Chong to the employees. This planning case for Wangqiao Town was brought down by Mr. Situ Chong with the help of Sifang Zongheng. Everyone should thank Mr. Situ Chong. As the general manager of Sifang Zongheng, I am very grateful to Mr. Situ Chong. In the future, Mr. Situ Chong will also assist me in running the company. I hope to work with everyone to achieve greater success. There was a burst of applause in the dining room. Su Yang felt very puzzled. It was clear that he had personally asked Xia Yulua to get the planning project for Wangqiao Town. How did the project become something that Situ Chong got? Su Yang frowned, but didn't say anything, and found a seat at the main table in the middle of the front row. The old employees of the company could sense something was up and were discussing it among themselves. Miss Jiang and Situ Chong are quite something, taking on such a big project as soon as they return to China. The company is now stable. President Su Yang is a bit passive now, with all the limelight stolen by Situ Chong. You don't think Miss Jiang is with Situ Chong, do you? Passive about what? President Su Yang and President Jiang were childhood sweethearts, together since junior high school. I don't think so. Didn't you notice how close Jiang Siyin and Situ Chong were when they were talking? They were practically glued to each other. I feel the same way. Situ Chong might just be Miss Su's new love. Look at the expression on General Manager Su's face, he's obviously not happy. For a moment, the focus of everyone's attention was on the three people at the head table. The employees began to whisper, speculating about what kind of relationship the three of them had. Jiang Siyin and Situ Chong finished talking and returned to the main table. Seeing Su Yang, Jiang Siyin leaned against Situ and then smiled and greeted Su Yang. "Su Yang, you're such a diva even at a meal. Everyone's been waiting for you." Su Yang smiled slightly and responded, Sorry, there was a bit of traffic on the way, which delayed me." Then he looked meaningfully at Situ Chong. "You've made such a big move since you've returned, taking the project planning for Wangqiao Town directly." President Situ appeared humble. Luck. It just so happened that my childhood friend, who I grew up with, is in the middle management of Blue Ocean Group, and I happened to get in touch with him." Su Yang asked in a light tone, "President Situ, are you sure that your childhood friend helped with the planning of the Wangqiao Town project?" Before Situ Chong could respond, Jiang Siyin on the side could no longer hold her temper. Jiang Siyin laughed twice. Her words were full of mockery and sarcasm. "Su Yang, if Situ Chong didn't get it, does that mean it's still your merit? I heard from Situ Chong that you also went to the Blue Ocean Group headquarters that day. You wanted to pester and beg Xia Yulua, the Xia family's youngest daughter, for forgiveness, but you were blocked. You didn't even go up to the building, and you were stopped at the bottom of the building. Aren't you ashamed?" Chapter 22, The Centurion Black Gold Card. At this point, Su Yang was too lazy to argue, and simply said indifferently, "Oh, then congratulations to President Situ on winning this major project in Wangqiao Town." Jiang Siyin snorted. "I think you should just be jealous, Su Yang. You don't have any real skills, and all you can do is speak in such a strange way. When I'm actually with Situ Chong, you'll see how anxious you'll be then." With a generous gesture, Situ Chong handed the menu on the main table to Su Yang and said, "Su Yang, you've been in Hanzhou for a long time. Yin and I haven't been in the country for a long time, so we don't know what's good. You order the food. Order whatever you want, I'm treating everyone today." Situ Chong knew that the food at the Cantonese restaurant Wanfu Seafood Hotel was relatively expensive. But he was prepared. There were 10 tables in total, and even if each table was based on the standard of 10,000 yuan per table, it would be more than enough. That's only 100,000 yuan. Although it hurts a bit, after the planning project for Wangqiao Town is completed, he will receive a handsome project bonus. Moreover, this meal will also buy the hearts of the employees of Sifang Zongheng in advance, paving the way for him to enter the company as deputy general manager in the future. Therefore, Situchong feels that he can bear it if he grits his teeth. Su Yang picked up the menu and casually leafed through it. His eyes then lingered on the seafood options with the highest prices. He first ordered a Boston lobster, then added a baked abalone with truffles, followed by steamed king crab, then braised whelk with cordyceps flour, braised grouper with fish maw, and red tuna with red wine. Each dish was an expensive, exquisitely prepared seafood delicacy. He ordered almost everything on the menu that was the most expensive. Then Su Yang ordered a bottle of the hotel's most expensive red wine. A top-notch vintage from Bordeaux, France, with a price tag of 39,900 yuan per bottle on the menu. The waiter was taken aback. "Sir, very few guests usually order this wine. Do you want this bottle to be served at every table?" Su Yang nodded, "Yes. Serve it at every table. It's not easy for everyone to get together once, we must eat our hearts out together." The employees of Sifang Zonghong held their breath and watched Su Yang's extravagant order with wide eyes. Some envied, some were surprised, and some began to doubt Su Yang's intentions. Situ Chang's face changed slightly. He didn't expect Su Yang to be so generous. "Su Yang, are you treating or are you trying to empty the restaurant?" Situchong finally couldn't sit still any longer and reminded him from the side. Su Yang gave a faint smile and responded, "It's rare for everyone to get together, so of course we should eat well." "Didn't you just say that you're treating today, so of course we can't waste the opportunity?" Situchong cursed in his heart. Not counting the expensive seafood that Su Yang ordered, just the 10 bottles of red wine would cost more than 300,000 yuan. During the past few years abroad, Situchong had basically been living from paycheck to paycheck, and now he simply did not have that kind of money. A hint of embarrassment flashed across Situchong's face as he said, "Su Yang, you are really generous today. But there are so many people eating here today, isn't ordering so much food a bit too extravagant?" Su Yang gave a faint smile, his tone tinged with a hint of mockery. "Extravagant? It's not that bad. Isn't it normal to go to a seafood restaurant and eat some seafood?" Situchong's face fell. He didn't expect Su Yang to raise such a question at this time. He had wanted to win people over through this meal, but he never expected Su Yang to fight back in this way. Jiang Siyin looked at Su Yang and her heart burned with anger. She stood up and said directly, "Su Yang, aren't you shameless? Situchong kindly invited everyone to dinner, but you're ordering dishes like a profligate? Have you never been invited to dinner before? Do you look like a starving ghost released from prison?" At this point, Su Lanlan, the department manager of the company's cultural and creative consulting department, stepped forward and said with some sarcasm, "Mr. Su, you really went a bit too far ordering the food like this. Situchong invited our staff to dinner, but he can't be so extravagant. You ordered so much luxurious seafood for the company's employees, aren't you afraid that they won't be able to digest it all and it will upset their stomachs?" From the recent movements of the company and her observations just now, Su Lanlan had already sensed something was up. Situchong had helped Square Strategy win such a big project, and Jiang Siyin, as the new general manager of Square Strategy, was obviously on Situchong's side. If she stood up at this time and spoke for Situchong and Jiang Siyin, she might stand a better chance of promotion within the company in the future. Sometimes in the workplace, you need to choose a side, and this was a perfect opportunity. So just now Su Lanlan seized such an opportunity to stand up. The originally noisy restaurant became quiet. The eyes of the more than 10 tables of employees present were all focused on the few people at the main table. Many were watching how this dispute between the company's top management would end. Su Yang gave a slight smile and swept his gaze over Su Lanlan, Jiang Siyin, and the others. Then Su Yang turned to the waiter, "Waiter, please continue serving the food. All the tables today are the standard I just ordered." Situ Chang's face turned even uglier. He didn't expect Su Yang to be so tough and completely leave him without face. Jiang Siyin was even more furious and her face turned pale with anger. She thought Su Yang would back down because of her mockery, but she never expected him to play by such unconventional rules. "Su Yang, if you insist on this, then you pay for all the dishes you ordered today." Jiang Siyin's voice carried obvious anger. "We gathered today to celebrate the success of the Wangqiao Town project, not for you to squander." Su Yang, however, just gave a faint smile, as if he didn't care about Jiang Siyin's accusations. "Waiter, how much is the total for the dishes I just ordered?" The waiter operated the ordering system a little. "Sir, if the dishes for all 10 tables are prepared according to your standards, the total will be almost 635,900 yuan. The waiter was flabbergasted. Su Yang's dishes were indeed a bit excessive today. In the past, The company's budget for the annual dinner after the annual meeting, including the venue and dinner expenses, was just over 100,000 yuan. Everyone's attention was focused on Su Yang, waiting to see how he would save face. Su Yang took a black card out of his pocket and handed it to the waiter. "Charge this meal to my card today." Everyone present was stunned when they saw the card Su Yang took out. The black card had a round helmeted man printed on it. It was a Centurion black gold card. Chapter 23. Su Lanlan, you have the clear soup noodles. Su Yang was lost for a few years when he was a child and was adopted into a rural family. The sister in the adoptive family, Han Qing, went abroad after graduating from university to build the BK jewelry brand. In addition to giving Su Yang a 90 million bonus, she also applied for this Centurion credit card for him. This is the bank's highest level of VIP card, limited worldwide. People who have this card not only have substantial assets, but also have a very high status and influence in society. The biggest difference between this card and a normal credit card is that there is no upper limit on the credit limit. With this card, you can freely enter the top clubs in major cities around the world and enjoy top-notch personal service. Even if you call, the all-powerful personal assistant can send a helicopter to pick up the cardholder or a relative to the hospital within 2 hours. Su Yang's actions just now shocked everyone present. Originally, they thought Su Yang would return the dishes because of Jiang Siyin and Situ Chang's accusations. Unexpectedly, he calmly and easily paid the bill with a credit card, and even took out a Centurion black card directly. The employees immediately started talking. President Su was really domineering. He just paid the bill without saying a word. This is a king crab, usually we can't even afford to buy it during the Chinese New Year. Did you see that? Su Zong took out a black gold card in his hand. This card is not something ordinary people can have. Thanks to President Su, we can have a big meal tonight. Jiang Siyin and Situ Chong looked at each other in disbelief. They had never imagined that Su Yang would pull out such a card, which symbolized wealth and status. Alright, everyone, let's continue eating. This meal is my small way of thanking you for your hard work. Su Yang said to the staff present with a smile. The staff nodded one after the other, and the atmosphere gradually returned to its lively state. Jiang Siyin gave Su Yang a glare and pulled Situ Chong to sit down. The two of them looked awkward. Su Lanlan, on the other hand, felt even more uncomfortable. She had originally thought that by blaming Su Yang she could win the favor of Situ Chong and Jiang Siyin, but she had not expected to put herself in an awkward situation. However, it was clear that she had been rash in taking sides just now. Su Lanlan could only sit down in an inconspicuous position at her original table. In a short while, a steaming seafood feast and red wine were served on the table. Seeing the sumptuous feast on the table, Su Lanlan's gaze focused on the king crab, temporarily putting the previous embarrassment behind her. After all, eating top-quality imported king crab at the top-class Cantonese restaurant Wangfu Seafood Hotel was something Su Lanlan would never have dared to dream of at her usual spending level. Just as Su Lanlan grabbed the claw of a king crab and prepared to tuck in, Su Yang walked over to Su Lanlan's table. Su Yang looked at Su Lanlan with gentle eyes and said, "Manager Su Lanlan, you just had a lot of opinions about the menu I ordered, thinking that those dishes might upset the staff's stomachs. So, I think it's better if you don't force yourself to eat. I think you might prefer something lighter, so to take care of you, I'll order something light just for you." After saying this, Su Yang turned to the waiter. "Waiter, thank you for your hard work, and ask the chef behind us to make a bowl of clear soup noodles for our manager Su. Our Miss Su has a weak stomach and can't eat all this seafood, so she needs special care." The atmosphere in the restaurant became a little delicate, and the staff whispered in disgust. Just now, Su Lanlan stood up to support Situ Chong and Jiang Siyin, and when she mocked Su Yang, President Su didn't say anything. It turns out that President Su is not as good-natured as he usually seems. He can also lose his temper. She deserved it. Su Lanlan just stood by blindly, and look, she got slapped in the face right there on the spot. She got slapped in the face with a bowl of plain noodles. It was as satisfying as watching a blockbuster. Su Lanlan felt the stares of everyone present. At this moment, she was still clutching the large claws of a king crab in her hand, and there was still some crab meat in her mouth that she hadn't had time to swallow. The large claws of the king crab were now a little hot to the touch. Su Lanlan awkwardly put down the king crab's claws, and her face instantly turned pale. She felt that she had become the laughingstock of everyone at this moment, and her heart was filled with anger and shame. Halfway through the dinner, while Su Yang was smoking on the balcony of the restaurant, Jiang Siyin caught up with him. Jiang Siyin couldn't wait to ask, "Su Yang, what do you mean? Where did you get the money to treat the staff to dinner, and where did you get the black gold card of the 1,000-soldier commander? Su Yang turned around and looked at Jiang Siyin with a calm gaze. Exhaling a puff of smoke, Su Yang replied indifferently, "Does it matter to you?" Jiang Siyin snorted. "Su Yang, you can just go ahead. How much money did you take from Sifang Zongheng during the years I was abroad? It's fine that you sucked the blood of Sifang Zongheng, but you even used that money to show off in front of the employees. Is it because Centurion got the Wanqiao Town project and outperformed you that you are unwilling to accept it? So you used this low-level and childish method to prove that you are not inferior to Centurion? Do you think that in this way, I will favor you in the competition between you and Centurion? I tell you clearly. No. You will only achieve the opposite effect. Su Yang, you are also approaching 30, please be more mature, okay? Too young, too naive." Su Yang looked at Jiang Siyin and listened to her bombardment. It just felt like watching her perform stand-up comedy. Su Yang spit and then spit a smoke ring at Jiang Siyin, stubbed out the cigarette, stepped on the butt with his foot, and gave a faint smile. "Jiang Siyin, I beg you. In the future, please don't speak Chinese with English mixed in, okay? This kind of mixture of Chinese and foreign languages really makes people feel uncomfortable." Jiang Siyin said a lot, but Su Yang's words made her unable to speak. As she watched Su Yang leave, she shouted angrily at his back, "Su Yang, you bastard, you annoy me every day, I'm never going to talk to you again." Su Yang heard Jiang Siyin scolding him from behind. He turned around and looked at Jiang Siyin, smiling faintly, "Oh, is that so? Su Yang, you." Jiang Siyin was so angry that her face turned red. She felt that Su Yang had completely changed. Now he looked like a rascal. In the past, as long as she said she wouldn't pay attention to him, he would immediately come behind her and coax her. But now, for some reason, he completely doesn't care when she says she won't pay attention to him. Jiang Siyin thought to herself, "Su Yang, you just keep pretending to be rich and happy. After you and Centurion get the Wanqiao Town project and take control of Sifang Zongheng, you won't even have a position in the company anymore. We'll see how happy you are then." Chapter 24, Blue Ocean Group changes its mind. Jiang Siyin returned to the table. She saw the low mood on Situ Chang's face. Situ Chong had wanted to treat the employees to a meal to get an early start on the layout of the entry into the Sifang Zongheng company, but he had not expected to be completely disrupted by a black gold card pulled out by Su Yang. Jiang Siyin comforted Situ Chong, "Chong, this guy Su Yang is really showy, spending so much money treating the employees to a meal. He only did it because you got the Wanqiao Town project, and he was upset and did it on purpose. Let's not take it personally from him." Sifu Chong suddenly felt a little better. "Yes, Inin, it's fine. In the morning, the two of us will go to Blue Ocean Group and sign the contract. The planning case for Wanqiao Town is more important than anything else." Early the next morning, Jiang Siyin arrived at the lobby of Blue Ocean Group with the directional invitation letter. Sifu Chong was already waiting in the lobby. The two met at the front desk and explained their purpose. The receptionist contacted Xia Yulua's secretary, Lumi. Lumi knew that Sifang Zongheng was sending someone to sign the contract today, so she went downstairs and led the two people to Xia Yulua's office. When Xia Yulua saw in the office that these were the two people Sifang Zongheng had sent to sign the contract, a flash of surprise crossed her eyes. Jiang Siyin went up with a smile on her face and offered to shake Xia Yulua's hand. Xia Yulua did not extend his hand, looking cold and indifferent. He simply pointed to the two chairs across the boss's desk and said, "Please sit down." Jiang Siyin looked embarrassed. She was a little confused. Blue Ocean Group had clearly sent a directional invitation to Sifang Zongheng, and now they were here to sign the contract, but they looked so indifferent. After she recovered, Jiang Siyin hurriedly said, "Mr. Xia, thank you for giving Sifang Zongheng the opportunity to cooperate. This is Situ Chong, who has just returned from abroad. He previously worked at McKinsey Consulting and has very rich experience. Later, Situ Chong and I will lead the team to work for you and we will definitely do a good job on the project planning for Wanqiao Town. Do you think we should discuss the details of the contract next?" Previously, Blue Ocean Group had spent a large sum of money to hire McKinsey Company to do the preliminary planning for a real estate project. Although McKinsey Company is a top foreign consulting firm with a big name, the case they produced in the end was completely unconnected with reality, and the results were even worse than some local planning consulting firms. Therefore, Xia Yulua had absolutely no good impression of McKinsey Company. Now that she heard that the main personnel of Sifang Zongheng who undertook the planning case came from McKinsey Company, her face became even more cold. Let's put it this way, Blue Ocean Group may need to think twice about the project planning for Wanqiao Town. You two can go back and wait for news. It was like a bucket of cold water. Jiang Siyin was anxious. She reflexively stood up from her chair. What do you mean, Mr. Xia? We clearly sent a targeted invitation for bidding to Sifang Zongheng, so why are you telling me to go back and wait for news now that we're here to talk about the contract? Xia Yulu gave Jiang Siyin a cold look. General Jiang, are you saying that after sending out the invitation for bids, this project must go to your company? Now, judging from your tone, it seems like you want to settle a score with me. Jiang Siyin calmed down immediately. The tone of her earlier words had indeed been inappropriate. Jiang Siyin quickly explained with a smile, I'm sorry, General Xia, I was just in a hurry. The Wanqiao Town project is really important to our company. We are also fully prepared to serve Blue Ocean Group. So I sincerely hope that Mr. Xia can give us a chance. As for the total contract price and payment cycle, we can negotiate. Xia Yulu remained calm. Ms. Jiang, do you think that Blue Ocean Group has invested billions of dollars in the Wanqiao Town project, and that Blue Ocean Group will care whether the contract value of this project proposal is 10 million or 8 million, and whether there is a payment cycle? Jiang Xiyin's face paled. Although she kept telling herself that she was there as the general manager of Sifang Zongheng to negotiate as an equal, in the face of Xia Yulu's aura, Jiang Siyin felt as if she was being crushed and could hardly breathe. Xia Yulu's calmness and confidence made Jiang Siyin feel an invisible pressure. Jiang Siyin tried hard to adjust her emotions and try to salvage the situation. President Xia, I understand what you mean. We fully understand the importance that the Blue Ocean Group attaches to the Wanqiao Town project. We, Sifang Zongheng, also hope to contribute to this project. President Jiang, I'm very busy. You two go back and wait for news. Before Jiang Siyin could finish speaking, Xia Yulua interrupted her with impatience. Secretary Lu, show the guests out. Lumi politely made a gesture of invitation. Okay, Mr. Xia, we'll wait for your news after we get back. Jiang Siyin and Situchon looked at each other helplessly and stood up to leave. Outside the office, Jiang Siyin and Situchon glanced at each other and could see the disappointment in each other's eyes. Jiang Siyin returned to Sifang Zongheng alone. In the large conference room, Zhang Buyun and the head of the Jiang family were discussing the planning and arrangements for the follow-up projects in Wanqiao Town while waiting for news from Jiang Siyin about signing the contract with Blue Ocean Group. However, the door to the meeting room opened and Jiang Siyin walked in with a look of disappointment on her face. Zhang Buyun suddenly had an ominous feeling. Yinin, how did it go when you went to negotiate the project contract for Wanqiao Town? Jiang Siyin spoke, things didn't go as smoothly as we thought. Xia Yulua seems to have some prejudice against Sifang Zongheng, and she wasn't friendly towards us. Zhang Boyun's brows knitted together and his face became grave. What's going on? Didn't we already get the directional invitation to bid? Could it be that Blue Ocean Group has other plans? Jiang Siyin shook her head helplessly. I don't know what's going on either. Previously, it was clearly said that the planning case would be given to Sifang Zongheng, but when we went to negotiate the contract today, she changed her mind. She even directly said that Blue Ocean Group might reconsider other suppliers. Zhang Boyun was puzzled. This incident was really strange. Zhang Boyun asked, Yinin, didn't you say that Sito Chung got in touch with the talent from the Blue Ocean Group Business Research Institute to get this project? Why don't you ask Sito Chung to find out what happened? Jiang Siyin said, no need to call. Sito Chung just asked. Originally, this project was intended for U.S. Sifang Zongheng, but it seems that Blue Ocean Group changed their mind at the last minute. Su Shitom had just separated from Jiang Siyin when he couldn't wait to call Wu Zhe, a junior at the Business Research Institute, and ask him what was going on and why Blue Ocean Group had sent out a directional invitation for bidding but then changed its mind. Su Shitom had always thought that Wu Zhe had helped him apply for Xia Yulua, but Wu Zhe had never even gone to see Xia Yulua. So Wu Zhe was also at a loss. Wu Zhe received a call from Situ Chong, and he was embarrassed, so he couldn't just say that he hadn't even looked for Xia Yulua. So he had to say vaguely that perhaps the project plan for Wanqiao Town was too big, and Xia Yulua had changed her mind at the last minute. Zhang Boyun and the old man were also disheartened when they got this news. Just when the project was about to get underway, there were changes afoot. Chapter 25 Xia Yulua, are you jealous? Zhang Boyun pondered for a moment and discussed it with Jiang Mingyi. The situation seemed to have reached an impasse. Zhang Boyun decided to stick to the original plan and first make a simple conceptual plan, which he would then show to Lanhai Group to see if it could impress Xia Yulua. Jiang Siyin, why don't you call Su Yang and ask him to come to the company, so that he can help us think of a solution? It's fine not to mention Su Yang, but as soon as Su Yang is mentioned, Jiang Siyin is full of anger. Dad, why did you call Su Yang back? His mind is completely not on the company's business. He's never around, just eating, drinking and having fun. I get angry just talking about it. Yesterday, it was originally Centurion who invited the company to dinner, but Su Yang had to act like a big shot and ordered more than 10 tables of seafood. The bill came to more than 600,000 yuan. Although he paid for it himself, didn't we, Sifang Zongheng, earn it? Dad, this Su Yang is really outrageous. How much do you actually pay Su Yang? If he keeps spending like this, sooner or later our company will be empty. Jiang Siyin angrily reported on Su Yang to Jiang Boyun and the old man. It was a good way to vent the anger she had built up during dinner the night before. However, Jiang Boyun and the old man were not at all as angry as Jiang Siyin had expected. Instead, Jiang Boyun looked shocked and asked, Inin, last night, did Su Yang really spend 600,000 yuan to treat the company's employees to dinner? Isn't that right? Dad, you have to give him a good talking to later. This can't go on like this. Jiang Boyun and the old man exchanged glances, even more surprised. In recent years, Su Yang has been acting as the general manager of Sifang Zongheng, but basically he only receives a nominal basic salary. In previous years, Su Yang made Sifang Zongheng's business flourish, and at the end of the year, Sifang Zongheng gave him a bonus, which Su Yang didn't even ask for, saying that it would be credited to his account first. The only exception was 2 years ago, when Su Yang said that Han Xin, the sister from his previous adoptive family, needed funds to do business abroad, and Su Yang withdrew 10 million from the company. Jiang Boyun felt that all this money was originally under Su Yang's name, so he gave it to Su Yang without hesitation. But a while ago, Su Yang returned the 10 million to the company. Jiang Boyun did not let Su Yang return it, but he could not convince him. Therefore, if you add up the inside and outside, in the past few years, Su Yang's salary from Sifang Zongheng has only totaled a few 100,000. Yesterday, Su Yang even spent 600,000 of his own money to treat the company's employees to dinner? Jiang Siyin was also shocked when she heard Jiang Boyun describe the situation. Not only did he not ask for a company bonus, but he also paid for the dinner himself? Isn't Su Yang being stupid? Jiang Siyin thought about it and could only attribute the reason to Su Yang trying to compete with Centurion by putting on a brave face despite being in a difficult situation. He just wants to gain the upper hand over Centurion. Su Yang really does like himself. Thinking about this, Jiang Siyin's mouth curled up into a smile. Su Yang sighed. Seeing that lunchtime was almost here, he cruised over on a newly purchased BMW or 1300S motorcycle Big Waterbird and arrived at the Blue Ocean Group building. Su Yang had long had his eye on this Waterbird motorcycle, but had never bought it before. He had been too busy with the business of Sifang Zongheng to have much time to ride it even if he had bought it. Now that Jiang Siyin had returned to take over Sifang Zongheng, Su Yang was happy to have some leisure time. This, combined with the fact that the 90 million yuan he had previously deposited in a bank account had earned him 3.6 million yuan in interest after 1 year. Su Yang thought that the interest on 90 million alone was enough to do many things, so he didn't hesitate to buy this BMW Aquila that cost more than 300,000 yuan. After parking his motorcycle, Su Yang walked straight into the lobby of the Blue Ocean building, took the elevator to the top floor of the 68th floor, and arrived at Xia Yulua's office. Xia Yulua had finished her morning work and was having the chef in the cafeteria fry some dishes on the table and prepare for dinner. As soon as she saw Su Yang enter, Xia Yulu glared at him. I told you to come and talk to me about Wanqiao Town this morning, but you came at me at mealtime? Did you come here on purpose to eat for free? Su Yang grinned, pulled a chair out and sat down in front of Xia Yulu, picked up a pair of chopsticks, and said, What's wrong with that? You can't finish 3 dishes by yourself, so I'll just eat a little with you. The food at Blue Ocean Group is so delicious, I'll just come in and eat whenever I'm free. Xia Yulu. After dinner, Su Yang put his arm around Xia Yulu from behind. Baby, are you going to stay the night tonight? Like hell I am. Xia Yulu struggled out of Su Yang's embrace, glared at him, and said angrily, Can't you see I'm busy? Xia Yulua has been busy at work these past 2 days, and has been staying at the office for several days in a row. Seeing the piles of materials on Xia Yulua's boss's desk, Su Yang exclaims, Is your work that busy? It's fine to eat at the office, but to sleep there too? You've left me alone in an empty bed for the past 2 days. Xia Yuluo's words are tinged with anger. Su Yang, is that all you can think about? I gave you the planning case for Wanqiao Town, and you're slacking off every day. Can you please pay some attention to it? We have to go to the province next month to report on the conceptual planning proposal. This planning proposal is related to whether the Wanqiao Town project can obtain support from provincial policies. If you can do it, but if you can't, just say so earlier, and I'll find another unit. The Wanqiao Town project is one that Xia Yuluo has been in charge of. Next month, he will have to report to the provincial government, and before that, the Blue Ocean Group Business Research Institute had produced a preliminary plan, which Xia Yulu was not satisfied with. Xia Yulu had hoped that Sifang Zonghong could contribute and come up with some good ideas. But after giving the planning case to Su Yang didn't seem to be in a hurry at all, so Xia Yulu was understandably anxious. Su Yang, however, said to Xia Yulu with a smile, "Don't worry. You mustn't rush a project like this one in the cultural and creative industry. Eat, drink, and most importantly, be inspired. When inspiration strikes, the whole project will unlock. Since you're in such a hurry, why didn't you sign the contract when our company's people came to see you this morning? You had to make me come here to sign it for you." Xia Yulu gave Su Yang a dirty look. "Su Yang, it's fine if you send someone else to sign the contract. But what do you mean sending your former colleague, who studied abroad, to sign the contract?" Su Yang looked at Xia Yuluo with a smile. "Huh? What's wrong? Are you jealous?" The expression on Xia Yuluo's face turned cold. "Jealous? Su Yang, are you out of your mind? I mainly feel that the two people you sent from the Sifang Zongheng are completely out of line in terms of their business acumen. Su Yang, if you keep smiling at me and talking nonsense, I'll really take back this planning case." Chapter 26 Jiang Siyin imitates a dog. Su Yang felt a pang of anxiety. Why was she so quick-witted? According to Xia Yuluo's temperament and status, she might really do what she said. Su Yang eased her tone and said with a smile, "I was just joking, why are you so angry? We agreed not to get emotional, and if you don't get emotional, how can you be jealous? Fine, I promise to pay attention and organize the team to do a good job on this project for you." Xia Yulu's face eased slightly and she said lightly, "Su Yang, Blue Ocean Group's budget for this planning and design proposal is 10 million. I will give you Sifang Zonghong the maximum budget. I will give you Sifang Zonghong all 3 contracts, from planning to design. I only have one request, you must come up with a proposal that will dazzle people." Su Yang's heart leapt with joy. "I originally only thought that I would be able to get the planning case for Wanqiao Town, but I didn't expect to get the whole package of planning and design as well." Su Yang suppressed his smile and said seriously, "Don't worry, since Sifang Zonghong has taken on this case, we will definitely do our best. I will personally lead the team to ensure that the plan stands out." Xia Yulu called Lumi. She asked Lumi to bring in the contract with the official seal and handed it to Su Yang, saying, "Send it back to Lumi after they have signed and sealed it." After getting the contract, Su Yang suddenly felt a burst of pressure. Su Yang had taken on many planning projects before, both big and small. But this was the first time he had taken on a project with a total planning, design budget of nearly 10 million yuan. It was going to be a tough battle. Fortunately, the personnel in the planning, design departments of Sifang Zonghong were still quite complete, and there should be no problem getting the 3 departments to work together on this project. Su Yang was about to leave with the contract when Xia Yuluo called out to him from behind, "Su Yang, wait, there's something else." Su Yang turned around, "President Xia, please instruct me if there's anything you need. There's a photo in my drawer that you took, right?" Su Yang was taken aback. He didn't expect Xia Yuluo to suddenly bring this up. He smiled awkwardly and scratched his head. What photo? I've never seen it." Xia Yulu frowned slightly. "Su Yang, don't pretend to be stupid, what did you do with my photo?" Su Yang saw Xia Yulu's cold expression and didn't know how to explain. In a hurry, he quickly fled. "Hey, I'll be going back first, I still have things to do with the company. I'll get back to work quickly." Xia Yulu watched Su Yang's back as he left, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Lumi, who was standing nearby, saw this and teased, "President Xia, look at the smile on the corner of your mouth. Gee. You said you weren't jealous when you saw Jiang Siyin at Sifang Zonghong this morning. If I hadn't seen this smile with my own eyes, I almost believed you." Xia Yulu put away the smile and deliberately made a stern face. "Lumi, I just remembered, have I recently assigned you less work, so that you have time to gossip about your boss face to face?" Come over here, let's talk about your recent work. Lumi stuck out her tongue and quickly walked out of Xia Yulawa's office. Mr. Xia, you hurry up and get back to work. Excuse me. Su Yang returned to Sifang Zongheng. In the meeting room, Jiang Siyin and Jiang Boyun were discussing the project planning for Wanqiao Town. When they saw Su Yang return, Jiang Siyin snorted in disdain. Su Yang, you're really carefree. It's already afternoon, what are you doing coming to work at the company? Su Yang sat down on the chair in the meeting room with his legs crossed and said, What project are you talking about? Why are you discussing it so enthusiastically? Jiang Siyin was outraged. You still care about the company's business. The project planning for Wanqiao Town is about to reach the final stage of signing the contract, but there have been changes. We are trying to see if there is any chance of saving it. Su Yang, you hang out outside all day long, can you do more real work for the company? Jiang Boyun couldn't stand it anymore and advised, Inin, why do you keep picking on Su Yang? Why doesn't Su Yang worry about the company's business? Previously, half of the company's business orders were brought back by Su Yang running around outside. Jiang Siyin snorted, if you're so great, why don't you negotiate the order for the Wanqiao Town project? If you get this contract, I'll look up to you too. Su Yang became interested and got up from his chair. What if I really get this case? Jiang Siyin thought to herself, Su Yang can't even get to the top of the Blue Ocean building, so how could he get this contract? Situ Chong worked so hard, and he even managed to find someone from the Blue Ocean Group's Business Research Institute, but when it came time to sign the contract, he changed his mind at the last minute. There's no way Su Yang will get the contract. Jiang Siyin casually mocked, Su Yang, don't brag. Judging from the situation, others might think you can really get the contract. If you really get this contract, I'll go to the office outside and bark like a dog for you to hear. Su Yang burst out laughing. Jiang Siyin, did you really say that? Yes, I did. Jiang Siyin shrugged her shoulders, obviously not convinced by Su Yang's words. Jiang Boyun shook his head helplessly on the side. Can you two stop fighting? Let's discuss it together again and see if there is any way to win over the project planning for Wanqiao Town. Su Yang gave a slight smile. He took out 4 contracts with the official seal of the Blue Ocean Group from the shoulder bag he was carrying and handed them to Jiang Siyin and Jiang Boyun. Look at what this is? Su Yang said proudly. Jiang Siyin and Jiang Boyun were both stunned. Jiang Siyin couldn't believe her eyes. She took the contract, looked at it carefully, and confirmed that it was undoubtedly a real contract. And it was a big contract of 10 million yuan for planning, design, and everything else. What's going on? Jiang Siyin stuttered and asked. Su Yang shrugged and said easily. I just came back from the Blue Ocean Group. President Xia has already signed. We, Sifang Zongheng, have won the big package for Wanqiao Town. Not just the planning, but also the planning and design of this project. Blue Ocean Group has packaged it all together with a total project contract price of 10 million yuan. Jiang Boyun was so excited when he saw the contract. He patted Su Yang on the shoulder and said, Su Yang, you're the one who made it happen. You're really our savior. Our company is going to be busy now. We've been trying to transform from early planning to late planning and design, but we've never been successful. Now you've negotiated such a large-scale project in Wanqiao Town. This is great. Jiang Siyin had a complex face. She didn't think Su Yang could really do it. Jiang Siyin was a little embarrassed. Su Yang, how did you get such a large contract amount? Didn't the Blue Ocean Group say they wanted to think about it some more? Su Yang waved his hand to interrupt her. Never mind how I got it, I naturally have some skills and methods. But did you just say that if I got the contract for this project, you would go to the office and bark like a dog? Jiang Siyin's face suddenly turned red. She didn't expect Su Yang to really bring back the contract, and she didn't expect that she would be put in such an embarrassing situation because of it. Su Yang, I was actually joking when I said those things just now. Jiang Siyin stuttered, you're a big man, you won't really argue with me and tell me to go to the office and bark like a dog. What kind of ability is it to bully a little woman like me? Su Yang had originally wanted to forget about it. But after hearing Jiang Siyin say that, he became serious instead. You just said that in front of Uncle Boyun, and it doesn't sound like a joke. You're the general manager of the company now, and you have to keep your word. Jiang Siyin felt a little embarrassed. She now regretted saying those words, but the words had already been spoken, and Su Yang didn't intend to let it go. Okay, since you're being so serious, I'll keep my promise. Jiang Siyin stood up and walked somewhat unwillingly towards the door of the meeting room. Chapter 27, The Decision to Leave. After a moment of hesitation, as if she had made a big decision, Jiang Siyin finally began to imitate a dog barking. The office area was originally quiet. Suddenly, Jiang Siyin's dog barking broke the silence, leaving everyone stunned. Immediately afterwards, a burst of laughter came from all corners. The employees all poked their heads out of their workstations, curious and looking in the direction of the meeting room. After Jiang Siyin returned to the meeting room, Jiang Buiyun coughed awkwardly to try to hide his smile. Ahem, you need to learn from this experience in the future, and you can't be so sure of yourself in the future, okay? Jiang Siyin finally finished her performance, blushing as she returned to her seat and glared at Su Yang. Are you satisfied now? Su Yang smiled and waved his hand, satisfied. But your barking was quite professional. Jiang Siyin stamped her feet in anger, but she didn't want to make a scene. After all, she had just said something big. Jiang Buiyun saw that the atmosphere had eased a bit, so he took the opportunity to say, Okay, everyone stop. Now that we've got the Wangqiao Town project, there's a lot of work to do next. Su Yang, we've finally got such a big project, what do you think about the schedule? Su Yang put on a serious face and said, Wangqiao Town is a big project with a heavy workload and a tight schedule. We have to report to the provincial government next month, and it involves planning, design, and 3 other aspects. I think we should gather the most capable people from the 3 departments to form a joint working group to plan this project at the same time. Jiang Siyin frowned and immediately expressed her opposition. Su Yang, this is a very risky idea. In the past, planning always came first, and the subsequent planning and design work was only started after the first draft of the plan was ready. If we hastily set up a joint working group, resources may be spread thinly, and a lot of useless work may be done, which will affect overall efficiency. After some arguing, neither side could convince the other. Jiang Siyin became impatient. Su Yang, I am now the general manager of the company, and I still call the shots when it comes to the company's business operations. You said before that you were leaving the company, and that during this period of time you would only be supporting me. So what, it turns out that you were lying when you said you were leaving Sifan Zongheng? Jiang Buiyun was beside himself with anger, and directly began to scold Jiang Siyin. How can you say that? Can't you see how much effort Su Yang has put into this project? He is now our hero, how can you say such nasty things just because of a little disagreement? I think if this goes on, sooner or later this company will be ruined by you. Jiang Siyin felt aggrieved and her eyes reddened in an instant. Dad! What's wrong with you? No matter what happens, why do you always take Su Yang's side? Am I not your biological daughter? Why do you always want to undermine me no matter what I do? Didn't Sito Chung and I work so hard for the company's business? Just now, Su Yang bullied me, telling me to go outside and bark like a dog, and you didn't stop him, but watch the fun. As Jiang Siyin spoke, the more she thought about it, the more aggrieved she felt, and she began to cry. Thinking about the injustice of barking like a dog outside just now made her even more sad. Jiang Buiyun saw Jiang Siyin crying at the slightest disagreement, and he was angry and distressed, his face looking very unpleasant. Su Yang came to the rescue. Uncle Buiyun, forget it. Let Jiang Siyin arrange it. She's right, I'm just helping her transition. After a while, when she's completely settled in here, I'll quit the company. I've been working non-stop for the past few years, and I haven't had a proper rest. I'm going to take this opportunity to go on a long trip and explore the world. These days, the ideal image of the blue realm occasionally comes to Su Yang's mind. Sometimes it's blurry, sometimes it's clear. If he could really escape from the hustle and bustle of work, Su Yang planned to take a long trip on his new motorcycle. Perhaps he could really find that ideal blue world in the distance. Jiang Buiyun became anxious when he heard this. Su Yang, the company can't do without you. Don't be angry with Jiang Siyin, she really doesn't know any better. Su Yang, Uncle Buiyun, I've made up my mind. Don't try to persuade me, I'm not being angry, I just want to take a break. After saying this, Su Yang turned to Jiang Siyin and said, Jiang Siyin, don't cry. I'll do whatever you say. If there's anything I can do to help, just let me know. I'll do my best to cooperate with you. Once the Wangqiao Town project is almost complete, I'll leave the company. With that, Su Yang left the meeting room. Siyin, just go ahead and mess things up. I don't see how you can run this company without Su Yang. Jiang Buiyun sighed and left the meeting room as well. Jiang Siyin gradually stopped crying. She had some doubts in her heart. Did Su Yang really intend to leave Sifan Zongheng? After so many years, Su Yang had established himself in the company and achieved so much. Could Su Yang really bear to leave? Back in her office, Jiang Siyin closed the door and called Situ Chong to give Sifang Zongheng the big contract from Blue Ocean Group. She also told Situ Chong about Su Yang's intention to leave. Situ Chong was also shocked. He couldn't figure out why Jiang Siyin and he had gone to Blue Ocean Group to sign a contract, but Xia Yulua had rejected it. However, Su Yang had obtained a big contract from Blue Ocean Group. The two discussed for a long time on the phone and finally came to a conclusion. It was probably because Suzhou from the Business Research Institute, whom Su Yang had contacted, had played a key role, and because Su Yang had also given 200,000 yuan to Madame Shou of Blue Ocean Group during the previous promotional meeting, which had added some extra points. Therefore, Blue Ocean Group had long since decided to award the contract to Sifang Zongheng. It was just that Su Yang happened to pick up the slack, or rather, Su Yang used some means behind the scenes. Most likely, Su Yang intercepted the contract express delivery sent by Blue Ocean Group to the company, and arrogantly took all the credit for himself. Jiang Siyin suddenly had a sudden realization. She was so angry that she yelled at the phone. This Su Yang is shameless. It was clearly a project that we both worked hard to negotiate, but he wants to take all the credit easily. Situ Chong said with deep concern, "Yin, I feel that Su Yang is very preoccupied now, and he is not as pure as he was when he was a student. He said that he wants to leave the company, and I think that is most likely a trick. Your father will definitely try to persuade him not to leave the company, that's why he dares to say that. Now your father is worried that Su Yang will leave, but he will instead stand by Su Yang's side." Thinking about the situation just now in the office when Zhang Buyan gave her a dressing down, Jiang Siyin was even more convinced that Situ Chong was telling the truth. Chong, you were right. You weren't in the office just now, but the situation was exactly like what you said. This Su Yang, why does he have so many devious ideas? He's so cunning. On the phone, Situ Chong reassured her, "Yin, don't worry too much. I'll support you fully. When we've both established ourselves at Sifang Zongheng, we'll grow the company together." Chapter 28 Su Yang, I'm different from other men. After hanging up the phone, Jiang Siyin was deeply moved. Comparing the two, the difference between Su Yang and Situ Chong was really huge. Situ Chong supported her fully no matter what she did. But Su Yang? Su Yang says one thing but does another, and at critical times even takes the credit for herself. Jiang Siyin's heart was originally swaying between Su Yang and Situ Chong, but gradually the balance was tipping a little more towards Situ Chong. After much thought, Jiang Siyin decided to go to Su Yang's office and have it out with her. When she got to the door of Su Yang's office, she heard Jiang Boyun and Su Yang talking. Jiang Boyun was earnestly persuading Su Yang. "Su Yang, I really can't trust Yin with the company. Yin is infatuated with Situ Chong. It seems like she plans to work with him to lead the Wangqiao Town project. Situ Chang's ideas from those foreign consulting companies in Macangxi sound impressive, and the fees are high, but in reality, they are not as practical as our local consulting companies." Su Yang didn't want to get involved with the Wangqiao Town project, and just wanted to go on a long motorcycle ride. Seeing Jiang Boyun's sad and worried face, he really couldn't refuse Jiang Boyun, so he comforted him, saying, "Uncle Boyun, don't worry. Sifang Zongheng was built by the old master and you with me. The Wangqiao Town project is really very important to the company. I will definitely pay attention to this project and put more thought into it." This conversation was just heard by Jiang Siyin, who was outside the door. Jiang Siyin sneered in her heart. "Su Yang, you stinking bastard, just now you said you wanted to quit Sifang Zongheng, but it was just a ruse." After Zhang Buyan left, Jiang Siyin went to the office and found Su Yang again. "Su Yang, let's talk." "Sure, let's talk. As long as it's not about love, we can talk about anything." Su Yang smiled slightly. Jiang Siyin gave Su Yang a cold look. "Su Yang, can you stop bullying me and Situ Chong just because you've been in the company longer? The other day when you invited the staff to dinner, you made Situ Chong lose face, and today you took the big contract for Wangqiao Town and deliberately tried to upset me? I already told you, if you want to be with me, then come out and compete with Situ Chong. What's the point of always using underhanded tactics behind my back? If you keep this up, I don't think you can compete with Situ Chong. If that's the case, we might as well break up." Su Yang simply did not understand how he had become so sinister in Jiang Siyin's eyes. But he didn't bother to think about it. People are like this: when they care about someone, they also care about what that person thinks of them. But once they don't care anymore, they don't care what anyone thinks of them. Su Yang said indifferently. Breakup? Haven't we already broken up? We broke up when you were studying abroad. These simple words suddenly ignited the fuse. Jiang Siyin was so angry that she was about to explode, and even her body was shaking a little. Fine, Su Yang, I have given you chances again and again, and you keep upsetting me like this, right? Break up. This time, it's for good. Hurry up and take your things out of the marital house. I will never give you another chance in the future. In the future, even if you beg me on your knees, I still won't give you a chance. Su Yan looked innocent. He couldn't figure out why Jiang Siyin was so angry. Seeing Jiang Siyin's red eyes about to shed tears again, he quickly said, Jiang Siyin, how many times have you cried on the job today? If you want to cry, go back to your own office. If no one knows, they'll think I'm bullying you. Jiang Siyin was so angry that she wiped away her tears. Su Yang, you have to talk to me clearly today. I'm not leaving until we do. Su Yang quickly packed his things and left the office. Fine, if you're not leaving, I'll go, okay? Su Yang packed her things and went straight back to the Xingshui mansion. Every time she went back to this old house in the past, there was always a woman in the house. This time, after coming back for several days in a row, she still didn't see Xia Yulu's figure in the old house. Su Yang was surprised to feel some kind of expectation in her heart. It was strange to say. Before, when she was asked to move out, Xia Yulu refused to move out of this house no matter what. Later, when a deal was reached to prevent her from moving out, she didn't come back to live in this house very often. As the daughter of the Blue Ocean Group, Xia Yuluo must have someplace else to live, right? I wonder if Xia Yuluo is still working overtime and living in the Blue Ocean building, or if she has gone to live somewhere else. These thoughts circled around Su Yang's heart, making Su Yang a little restless. Su Yang took out his phone and wanted to send Xia Yuluo a WeChat message. In the blink of an eye, Su Yang changed his mind. How could he miss this woman? If she doesn't want to come back, then she doesn't have to. Su Yang deleted the words typed on her phone, and an inexplicable sense of anxiety arose in her heart. After thinking about it, she decided to go to bed early. At that moment, the sound of the door unlocking could be heard outside the door. Su Yang's heart leapt with joy, and she went to the door to observe while brushing her teeth. Sure enough, Xia Yuluo had returned. As soon as Xia Yuluo saw Su Yang brushing her teeth with her red toothbrush with a teddy bear on it, she was furious. Su Yang, you bastard. You used my toothbrush? Xia Yulu rushed into the room angrily, snatched the toothbrush from Su Yang's hand, and was full of anger and dissatisfaction. Su Yang froze for a moment, then revealed an innocent expression and laughed, saying, We've kissed, so what's the big deal about using a toothbrush? Besides, I've used it a few times before. Xia Yulu stamped her foot in anger, glaring at Su Yang. What? You mean you used it before? Yes, when you weren't here, I couldn't find my toothbrush sometimes, so I used yours. Su Yang shrugged, as if it didn't matter. Xia Yulu's face turned even uglier. She said angrily, Su Yang, don't you know this is a personal hygiene issue? How can I use your toothbrush? Su Yang couldn't help laughing at Xia Yulu's exasperated look. He said, Okay, don't be angry, I won't touch your toothbrush in the future. But why did you suddenly come back to live here today? I was going to ask you the same thing. Why did you come back to live here? This is my house, of course I can come back to live here. Xia Yulu glared at Su Yang. Su Yang, don't forget the deal we made. The property rights of this house belong to you, but the right to use it belongs to me. You can come over to sleep occasionally, but you can't live here normally. Su Yang started acting like a bully. If you don't let me live here, I'll change the locks. I have the property deed anyway. Xia Yulu stamped her feet in anger, glaring at Su Yang. How dare you? If you don't let me live here, I'll just withdraw from the contract for Wanqiao Town. Su Yang shook his head helplessly, knowing that he could not compete with this shrewd young lady. Xia Yulu pondered for a while and said, But if you behave, I might consider leaving the door open for you. You can tidy up the second bedroom and move in there. But let's make a deal. First, you can't bully me. Second, you can't bring other women back here. And the third? Su Yang asked. Third, you can't put toads in my bed. Su Yang burst out laughing. He thought to himself, a real man can bend but not break. There was nowhere else to live at the moment. He would temporarily live in the second bedroom until he bought a new house. Then he would move out. Su Yang arrived in the second bedroom and tidied up the mess on the bed. When making the bed, Su Yang couldn't get the quilt cover on. So he called Xia Yuluo over to help. Xia Yuluo rolled her eyes and went to the second bedroom. Although she tried hard to focus on making the bed, the two indistinct shapes that appeared when she leaned over made Su Yang feel uneasy. Su Yang felt embarrassed and couldn't help but stare at them, but only for a few moments. After making the bed, Xia Yuluo stood up and turned to Su Yang, her gaze like a waterway. Su Yang, do you like my breasts? Su Yang coughed to hide his embarrassment. They're okay. Why do you ask? Xia Yuluo, you've looked at my breasts almost 10 times while making the bed. Su Yang simply smirked and said, you have so many men after you, do you know what they want? Xia Yulu snorted, what else could it be? You men only have one goal when you chase after women, to sleep with them. Su Yang shook his head, I don't think I'm like those men. Xia Yulu was taken aback, and smiled wryly, how is that so? What do you mean? Do you want to fall in love with me? Su Yang smirks, other people want to sleep with you, but I'm different. Besides the master bedroom, I want to try out the newly built second bedroom with you. Xia Yulu's eyebrows curve into a crescent, and then he walks over to Su Yang and says, okay. If you like to try it so much, then today, in addition to the second bedroom, we'll try the kitchen and sofa later. Su Yang. Chapter 29 Moving out of Donghu Garden. The next day. The weekend. In the large flat of Donghu Garden. Jiang Siyin and Situ Chong, with their arms around each other, returned from the supermarket outside, chatting and laughing. As soon as they opened the door, they saw a man sitting on the sofa in the living room. Ah! Who? Jiang Siyin exclaimed in surprise, instinctively hugging Situ Chong tightly. Sifu Chong was also startled. When the man on the sofa turned around, the two of them realized it was Su Yang. Su Yang, why did you come without saying anything in advance? Jiang Siyin looked annoyed, you barged into someone's house without saying hello, aren't you being rude? Su Yang took a deep drag on his cigarette, then stubbed it out in a paper cup and said indifferently, I came to pack up the things in this house. You weren't here when I knocked on the door, so I just used the code to get in. After saying this, Su Yang opened a suitcase on the floor and started packing things. Situ Chong had been waiting a long time for this day. Now that he saw Su Yang planning to move out, he was overjoyed. If Su Yang moved out for good, the 200-plus square meter, luxuriously decorated large flat could be settled down and lived in with Jiang Siyin. Situ Chong was happy in his heart, but pretended to be reluctant on his lips. Su Yang, what are you doing? I was just going to stay here temporarily. You're the one moving out, so it's embarrassing for me. Su Yan looked up at Situ Chong and said lightly, Situ Chong, we were on the same university team, so it doesn't matter who lives here. You're with Jiang Siyin now, so you can live here. Jiang Siyin felt a sudden pang of sadness when she saw Su Yan packing his things. She didn't want to let Su Yan go. Although the scales in her heart now tipped a little towards Situ Chong, she hoped to choose between Su Yang and Situ Chong. Situ Chong had been good to her abroad, and was now a valuable assistant in her career. But Jiang Siyin and Su Yang had been childhood friends, growing up together, and Su Yang had been good to her too. Jiang Siyin couldn't bear to lose either of them. After thinking about it, Jiang Siyin said, Su Yang, why are you so petty? I scolded you a little in the office the other day, and you're just like a little grudge and packing up to move? Su Yang continued packing, you two are together now, so naturally I have to make room for you. I'd better be self-conscious and not become a stumbling block for the two of you. Su Yang had already made up his mind. The second bedroom in the Xingshui mansion was packed anyway, so it was just right for him to move in with Xia Yuluo for a while. It will also be convenient for visiting. When I buy a house in the future and live alone, I don't know how carefree I will be. Su Yang didn't have much stuff in her house in Donghu Garden, so she quickly packed up most of it. Just then, the doorbell rang. Jiang Siyin opened the door, but saw Jiang Buyun and Zhang Lan appear in the doorway. Dad, Mom. Why are you two here? Jiang Siyin was shocked, and an ominous feeling rose in her heart. We were just shopping at the mall, and we thought we'd stop by and see you guys. Jiang Buyun and Zhang Lan said as they entered the house. As soon as they entered the house, they saw Su Yang and Situ Chong, and they were a little surprised. Seeing Su Yang packing her things, Zhang Lan's brows furrowed slightly. Su Yang, what are you doing? Why are you packing your things and moving out? Su Yang looked up and politely replied, Auntie Lan, I'm preparing to move out. I don't plan on living here anymore. Jiang Boyun's face fell when he heard this, and he turned to Jiang Siyin. Siyin, what's going on? Did you two have a fight? Jiang Siyin smiled awkwardly and explained, Dad, it's nothing. Su Yang just felt it wasn't convenient, so he decided to move out on his own. Jiang Boyun obviously didn't buy it. Looking at the situation in the room, Jiang Boyun had already guessed what was going on. Jiang Boyun's tone became serious. Siyin, you and Su Yang have grown up together since childhood and have a deep relationship, so why are you moving now? This is the marital home that was prepared for you and Su Yang, and if you find some unsavory person to move in, then I will break your legs. When Situ-chong heard this, his face turned red and then white. He quickly said hello, uncle and aunt. Jiang Siyin went to the supermarket to buy some things and couldn't carry them, so I'm helping him carry them. Well, uncle and aunt, you guys chat first, I won't bother you anymore. After Situ-chong left in a huff, Jiang Boyun pointed at his nose and scolded Jiang Siyin. Inin, how many times have I told you not to hang out with that good-for-nothing? Now it's really the end of the world. What, are you going to invite that pretty boy to move in with you? Jiang Siyin lowered her head, afraid to look her father in the eye, and whispered in self-defense, Dad, you're always criticizing me. Just leave my affairs alone, okay? I'm a grown-up, I can handle my own life. I never said I wouldn't be with Su Yang, I just want to let Situ-chong compete fairly. But he's always so hot-tempered, and if we have a disagreement, he just moves out. Jiang Boyun was shaking with anger and said angrily, Inin, what kind of attitude is that? Su Yang grew up with you since childhood, don't you know how he treats you? That guy Situ-chong is unreliable just by looking at him. If you really mess around with him, I tell you, you will never get a penny from home in the future. I will take back the wedding room too, and you won't be able to live there. Jiang Boyun turned to Su Yang and said, Su Yang, you too, how can you give in so easily? You and Siyin have been close since childhood, and you're just going to give up because of this little thing? Su Yang was silent for a moment, then slowly spoke, Uncle Boyun, in relationships, it's not who gives in who loses. I respect Siyin's choice, and I hope she can be happy. If my leaving can make her happier, then I'm willing to withdraw. Jiang Siyin suddenly understood what was going on. Su Yang had just entered the door, and her parents arrived shortly after. It was another trick of retreating in order to advance. Jiang Siyin turned to Su Yang, her voice tinged with anger. Su Yang, you're really something. What kind of trick is this? You let my parents see you moving things on purpose so that they can force me to choose? If you're a man, you should compete fairly with Situ-chong. Is it fun to always do these underhanded things behind people's backs? This will only make me stay away from you even more. Su Yang, however, calmly replied, Jiang Siyin, I didn't do that. Anyway, you won't believe what I say now, so I'm not going to bother explaining. I moved out because I think it's the best option. I don't want to be an obstacle between you and Situ-chong, and I respect your decision. Jiang Boyun said angrily, Inin, it wasn't Su Yang who told us to come over, we just happened to be in the mall nearby. Jiang Siyin grunted in dissatisfaction, you must have conspired to say that on purpose. Dad, you're so biased towards Su Yang. Su Yang is full of plots and schemes, don't let him confuse you. Jiang Boyun's face grew even more gloomy after hearing this. He raised his hand, so angry he wanted to slap Jiang Siyin's mouth. You child, why are you so stubborn? If you keep talking nonsense and confusing right and wrong, I swear I'll spank you. Chapter 30, Burn This Photo Album. Zhang Lan saw the situation escalating. She quickly stepped forward and held Jiang Boyun back. Jiang Siyin looked up, her eyes betraying a trace of stubbornness. Looking up, Jiang Siyin looked at Jiang Boyun and said, Dad, go ahead and hit me, just do it now. Jiang Siyin's tears swirled in her eyes, but she forced them back. She continued, you are always like this, only caring whether I am with someone you like, but never asking who I really like. Jiang Boyun and Zhang Lan glanced at each other, their eyes full of helplessness. Jiang Boyun said, Inin, we just want you to have a good life. You and Su Yang grew up together, and we watched you two grow up together. We believe that Su Yang is a good boy and that he can take care of you. Don't let that little white face, Situ-chong, charm you. Jiang Siyin still stood her ground. Dad, I know you're just looking out for me, but I hope you can understand me too. You can't just arrange relationships for me. I need time to think and decide what I really want. Besides, Su Yang still hasn't given up hope. Zhang Lan immediately became anxious. Inin, are you just sitting on the fence, looking at both sides? We've been friends with the Su family for 3 generations, and you and Su Yang grew up together, like childhood sweethearts. How can you betray Su Yang? You were abroad for 3 years. Do you know how Su Yang has been? Su Yang has had a hard life since childhood. His biological parents treated him so badly that Su Yang has suffered a lot. You are the only source of warmth for him. Will you two stop fighting? You are both coming back with us tonight, and we will go home and talk about this properly. Jiang Siyin stood there, her face clearly showing her reluctance. Seeing that Zhang Lan was still going to continue persuading Jiang Siyin, Su Yang stepped forward to interrupt Zhang Lan. Auntie Zhang. Things have come to this, so please don't make things difficult for Yin. You can't force a relationship, and even if you keep her, you won't be able to keep her heart. I'm willing to let her go. Once the Wanqiao Town project is almost complete, I'll resign from Sifan Zonghong too. Zhang Lan felt a pang of sadness in her heart, and suddenly her eyes welled up with tears. He quickly comforted Zhang Lan. Auntie Lan, Uncle Boyun, don't be sad. Even if it's the end of your fate with Jiang Siyin, I will never forget the kindness you have shown me by adopting me. We will always be family. Jiang Siyin snorted when she saw this. Su Yang, you can act in front of my parents all you want, but I'll see how long you can keep it up. Jiang Boyun's face turned pale. Yin, since you're so stubborn, we won't say anything more. Sooner or later, you'll regret it. This house is for you and Su Yang to get married in. Since you insist on staying with that little white-faced Sitachong, you move out of this house, and I will transfer the ownership of this house to Su Yang. Moreover, I will transfer the shares of Sifan Zonghong to Su Yang later. Jiang Siyin stayed in place. An inexplicable sense of grievance and anger welled up in her heart. She never expected Jiang Boyun to make such a decision. Just as Jiang Siyin was about to argue with Jiang Boyun about whether she was still their biological daughter, Su Yang stepped forward to stop Jiang Boyun and said indifferently, Uncle Boyun, I don't want the house or the shares of Sifan Zonghong. I was quite happy with Jiang Siyin before, and it wasn't for the house or the shares. Now that we're separated, I definitely don't want the house or the shares. Besides, I'm living a pretty good life now, and I don't lack anything. I'll just go ahead and pack up some of my things, and take them with me. Jiang Boyun saw that he couldn't persuade Su Yang, and with anger, he gave Jiang Siyin a look. Yin, you just won't listen, just go ahead and make a mess of things. You really let me down. I don't care about you anymore. Do whatever you want. Remember what I said, you'll regret it when the time comes. After saying this, Jiang Boyun left without looking back. Zhang Lan looked at Jiang Siyin helplessly, then turned and followed Jiang Boyun's pace, leaving the room. Jiang Siyin stood in the empty room, her heart full of mixed emotions, feeling an unprecedented sense of loneliness and helplessness. Su Yang silently packed his things, and the atmosphere in the room became extremely heavy. Neither of them spoke, only the sound of items being moved echoed in the air. After putting all the clothes in the suitcase, Su Yang took out an album from the chest of drawers by the bed and placed it outside the suitcase. Then he took down a guitar hanging on the wall and put it on his back. Jiang Siyin, I'm leaving. I wish you happiness. Jiang Siyin did not respond, watching all this with a cold eye. Su Yang is still putting on an act. He must be waiting for me to stop him. Jiang Siyin thought to herself, Su Yang, this time I definitely won't stop you. Let's see how you plan to end this. However, 5 minutes passed and there was silence at the door. Su Yang, however, seemed to have put down the room key and really left without looking back. Jiang Siyin suddenly felt a little flustered. She quickly took the elevator downstairs and chased after him. Jiang Siyin rushed out of the building and looked around, but she couldn't see Su Yang's shadow. Her heartbeat accelerated, and an inexplicable panic spread in her heart. She began to walk quickly towards the entrance of the community, trying to find that familiar figure. However, no matter how hard she looked, she couldn't find Su Yang. A sudden feeling of emptiness and loss welled up in her heart. She began to reflect on her actions and whether she had really been too unfair to Su Yang. Jiang Siyin's heart was filled with remorse and confusion. Finally, she saw a familiar figure in the parking lot. Su Yang was smoking, holding a lighter in his hand, and was about to light an album. Jiang Siyin rushed over and snatched what Su Yang was holding. Su Yang, what are you doing here? Are you burning something shameful? Su Yang looked at Jiang Siyin, a complex emotion flashing in his eyes, and then replied indifferently, nothing shameful, just some youthful memories from the past. Jiang Siyin opened the photo album in surprise and leafed through the pages. The album contained many photos of the two of them together, in chronological order, from junior high school, to high school, and even to university. In addition, there were also some photos of Jiang Siyin's back taken by Soo-young. There were photos of her reading in the classroom, and photos of her blowing in the wind in the classroom corridor. Jiang Siyin had never seen many of these photos herself. The last photo was of Jiang Siyin's back as she boarded the plane 3 years ago, the day Soo-young sent her to study abroad. Jiang Siyin felt a mixture of emotions when she saw these photos in the album. Soo-young, why did you take so many photos of my back? It's nothing. Just for fun. Jiang Siyin was a little annoyed. What do you mean just for fun? You dared to take them, but you can't tell me the real reason? Soo-young lit a cigarette and smoked in silence, his face expressionless. Jiang Siyin was impatient. Soo-young, just tell me. Soo-young exhaled a few smoke rings and said lightly. The photos of those backs are because I feel that everyone has a side that they can't see, so I wanted to take them and show them to you. Originally, I wanted to make these photos into an electronic music video and surprise you on our wedding day. But now it seems that these photos will never be used, so I might as well just burn them.